funds into your local account, no more than 3 weeks before this is implemented, you should be closed. That account should be closed. So you will need to send that deposit to our national, to Washington. To Virginia. You need to set up smartphone apps for deposits by chapter chair. Treasurer will be done, or the designated person in your chapter. You need to send a list of any reoccurring bills to our national office also. John is going to be looking for invoices, and he's going to figure out a way to make sure we get those reoccurring bills taken care of. You need to check with your bank and make sure you have no outstanding checks. That's why we told you, and John has said over and over again, as we implement this, you'll get a date because he'll be notifying you when it's close to your implementation date, and you are to stop writing checks at least 30 days prior to the implementation of your state. You also are supposed to stop using, if you've got an ATM card, you've got to stop using that also, okay? 1 to 2 weeks before we implement, if you have a PayPal account, you need to transfer funds to the national account. So that needs to be transferred also, along with your bank account, and then you need to close that PayPal account. Begin using the new national account for workshop fees and other events where you charge admission. And
no, that does know what that means. Just make sure that after the process properly. Does everybody use PayPal?
yes.
Every chapter? Okay, so you'll get more instructions on how to use PayPal. You are not allowed to pay cash, and Steve has gone over that a multitude of times. That you slap them in the face and say, "Get out of here with that." Don't you say?
You welcome them in without taking the cash.
Yeah, you welcome them in without taking the cash. We cannot take cash. We will take a personal check, which is crazy because it's just the same as not paying. But they say we can take a personal check or a credit card. A store is going to offer lots of training on the in-house system. If you've never used it, you're going to need to figure out how to use it. And so you're going to transfer all your local funds to new accounts. You're going to close your local funds accounts that you take, if necessary, make 2 transfers. You have unrestricted and restricted funds. I'm sure all of you understand the difference between the two. You don't?
No, I understand the difference.
Yeah, okay.
All your current money is unrestricted.
That is what John did say to me when we were talking about notes, that the current chapter funds were unrestricted, but the national funds are restricted. That's in our national account, is what was told.
Because as we move over, we're going to ensure that John will ensure that every restricted dollar gets spent first. So even if it's a workshop revenue that you're bringing in, we're going to be able to see that at the local level. And if you ask for reimbursement on something, that's going to go first in the accounting. So what John's going to show you in a minute, sort of a dashboard, you'll be able to see what you want to see as far as the 6%. But it's not really going to matter up until the point where you actually have zero cash and then you're trying to buy alcohol for Christmas party. So I mean, it's really not going to be a big deal, but the transparency, visibility will be there.
Ed Coleman and Washington, the chapter there, they've already implemented the program. He said it was a smooth transition for him. John's checklist is a checklist that made it very easy. So as long as we follow the checklist that's sent out from national, we should be fine. We can always contact them if we have any other questions once they get ready to implement it in your chapter, and you've got that checklist. But I was told the checklist makes it easy. It's a smooth transition, according to Ed. They had no concerns. So we just need to give it a try.
Okay, we'll finish our screens up here. Hope you like my graphics. Treasure your old debit cards, checks, hold on to all of your old banking for a minimum of 6 years. I believe that is the federal guideline, some of you CPAs, 6 years. Yes, you're agreeing with me, hold on, you have to hold on to paperwork for 6 years. Now, there are several national accounts that we're going to have access to. Some of you are already using them. The Office Max, Office Depot accounts. You'll have two ways to do this. One is just a discount card, which does give you tremendous discounts on copies, on hardware, ink, and then you will have a different situation where you can go in and order supplies, and it will be directly billed to the national office, but coming out of your budgeted fund. So if your budget says this year we need to buy a replacement printer, you don't have to go pay for it, turn in a Form 14, get reimbursed. You simply go get it and it's billed directly to national. Same is true with Vistaprint. I did this last week. I will warn you, the prices are much higher going through the portal than if you just order from Vistaprint. So I don't know who set that up, but the prices are like 3 or 4 times higher ordering through the SCORE portal. Panera Bread is on here. They're one of our other new national accounts. Don't go eat there every day. That's not the intent. The intent is if you're having a workshop or you're having some type of event and you need catering lunch, you can pre-arrange with your local Panera and they will bill directly SCORE National so that you don't have to do it because you won't have a local checking account to pay for it.
Right, and we were told that they would be setting up other national accounts for us.
And John may have an update on that. So this, again, is a portal that doesn't look at all like what we're going to have, so we'll skip over it. You will still be able to do our wonderful Form 14. This is not an automated process. You're still going to have to scan it, scan all your receipts, email it in, and when they process that, then they will pay you directly. Go back.
It's they're setting up accounts, and then we'll gradually start rolling in others. But right now, they're setting up the accounts where it will show you when your Form 14 for the district directors, and I believe he's going to start later with chapter chairs. When the Form 14s are submitted and payments are done to you, it'll say that your Form 14 was received, the amount of the invoice that you sent in for the Form 14. Then when payment gets ready to hit, it'll say payment is going to hit on this date. When the payment actually hits, they'll tell you that it's in your bank account so that you know the money has been deposited to your account.
Right, so on the smartphone right there, that is the Bill.com application. If you have not downloaded that, go ahead and download Bill.com. That's exactly how it's going to look. After you send your Form 14 in, there'll be one day where you get an email, but the application will also say, we have $432 that will be transferred to you tonight at midnight. And it'll be in your bank account tomorrow. So that's a neat little feature. And there's the Bill.com sign-in place over there. One of the things that I wanted to make sure we all understood in the slides yesterday, it said we'll have one login for all SCORE platforms. And that's true. The clarification, because I was thinking one thing, you can't do everything from one platform. So if you're in Emerge, what is it? Engage. If you're in Engage, you got to leave Engage to go get in a new platform to do your financial transactions, but it will be the same password for the person designated to do the financial transactions. It'll be the same password at Bill.com. Yeah, whoever's doing it, but it'll be the same login information. If you're like me, you're going to use the same email and password on all 4 sites, but you can change it up however you want. Yeah. Sorry. Nobody's like, that's for sure. That's for sure. My pen, yeah.
No, he's giving that to me first. You have to wait.
Well, I'll make it real easy. My password is the city of England where I was born.
I know that.
And you have to spell it correctly because it's not spelled like it sounds.
You told me that.
So some of the things that you will be able to do in the software, and Don is going to walk us through this here in much more detail, what you're going to be able to do view all the chapter reports, view all the chapter funds, the chapter journals, view the district reports, the district funds, the district journal. You can transfer funds from one account to another and from one district to another chapter.
It's supposed to be a lot easier system, and you can see real time what's going on with your banking account.
So here's what you cannot do in the financial report. You cannot submit 14. Hopefully, enough of us will tell National, look, this is crazy. It's so simple. Just put a button, let us upload our Form 14 and our receipts. But right now, you can't do that. So that hopefully will be in another version further on down the line. The next one, you cannot submit a bill to be paid in the portal unless I've been given the wrong information. Transfer funds to an outside bank. That will get you a visit by federal marshals, so don't do that. You cannot request checks or reimbursements without a chapter chair or district director's approval. You're going to still need the same approvals that you have today. And finally, we really don't know until it launches. That's what we don't know. And at this point, we're going to say, oh, wait, you want questions? Okay, questions for us. Back there first. Uh-huh. I see Steve shaking his head no.
So that's a question for John, and we're about to bring John on.
John's going to talk all about this. This is not our expertise. It's John's. I understand. Uh-huh. That's why it's take those away.
That's probably something that you're going to have to address with our accounting department. So you probably need to let John know that you use Google and Bing and that they're automatic payments usually through your chapter so that he can set up payments for you.
Okay. Let's hear it for here's Johnny.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Listen, I don't know how my voice is turning up there. Dale and Mary were intermittent at best, and I could not understand anybody outside off the podium at all of what they were saying. So if any questions do come in, maybe Dale or Mary can get those to me so I can hear them, because I really can't make out anything that's going on outside of off the podium. Okay. What I'm showing you here is this is the chapter landing page when they log on to Intact, which is the accounting system that they have. What we're trying to do is present them with as much information on the first page as possible. If we change, the main thing they're going to see when they first log in is the chapter cash balance. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, you can see the chapter cash balance. This is, you can drill down from this option here. Again, I heard some conversation going on earlier that the initial transfer over of chapter funds into the new accounting system, we will make sure that all funds are put in as unrestricted. As you have income and expenses going on after that, then we will allocate those to their proper thing. The next thing that we have on there is the national allocation. What is left in the national allocation? And again, something where you have the blue right here, you can click this and the chapter can get their report of how much they spent in the current month, what year to date is, what their budget is, and what their balance is. And that can also be drilled down into transactional level if they should want. The next slide, which is in the lower right-hand corner. This is the statement of financial position. Now, we'll be changing the names of these reports. It's not going to say Department 5800 A123. That's using for our development side of these. But this is equivalent to the balance sheet that you have. You're going to see a chapter cash balance, what they have in current banks. This is the thing that we're going through right now. Accrued expenses, the net assets restricted and federally restricted that they have, and that is, you know, the original net assets that came in were 100% unrestricted, but they had a lot of workshop revenue coming in during the year, and that added to federally restricted. Anything in blue, as you see along the left-hand side, is drillable, which means that you can point a cursor to that, click it, and you can start going down to the chart of accounts and then transactional level on any of these items to see what the changes have been through the year to date, and you can run other reports for something outside of year to date. Okay, the next slide. This is your income statement. It's a little bit of an eye chart, but as you go down on your left-hand side, it lists your income accounts and then all your expense accounts that you might have. The next column says local funds. That's what the chapter has taken in and what has been deposited into their local funds within the Bank of America account and any expenditures that went out of that. The next column is your national allocation and what has been spent there. What we will try and do is, as funds come in, if they qualify for expense out of the national allocation, we'll try and pay that off first to make sure that you use up the federally restricted funds that you have available to you as quickly as possible. If you have a field grant, that would appear into the next column. If you did not have a field grant, that column would disappear. You go then into a year-to-date total for all the columns to the left. You'll have your annual budget. Dale, I think, mentioned this earlier on, and then a variance on your annual budget. Again, anything in blue has the ability to be drilled down. Now, I'm going to select where the red line is, clerical for the chapters. And so if we go to the next slide, it will show what comes up. Here's a itemized list of all the things that were charged to clerical and how they were charged. Now, this is all the chapters and everyone that is utilizing the system currently right now. And it shows everything that we've done in all transactions. I didn't want to isolate one chapter and give away everything that they're doing. So I picked out one Panther bill that we have here for Patricia Fouts, dated for 11/15. And we're going to click on the amount. Go ahead. This gives me the bill of how it's entered into Intact, and it shows the dates it was entered, that it was paid, no amount is due, where it was charged to, how it was charged, and you have the ability from here to go down even further to invoice level, and there's a little tagline on the left-hand side at the bottom that says "View document in bill.com." So let's click again. What this does is brings up the bill.com screen that actually has an invoice that's associated with it. You know, I don't think any chapter, except maybe one or two, that have any type of accounting system actually have this functionality that you can go down to this level. And this shows date it was paid and everything else. So you know, you can go down quite far on this. This is all derived off of the landing page. If we just go back to the landing page, I think that's the last slide I have here. And I'll just show, you have up across the top, there's a blue ribbon that goes across the top of this report, and that allows you to go down and access general ledger reports, accounts payable reports, and anything else that the chapter might need to look at from that. But we tried to give as much information, as much useful information of when they go on. We will also have, you know, there will be district director reports and regional VP reports that will be similar to this, but a little bit more geared toward the information that they're going to want to see. They won't just see their own national allocation, but they'll see the district or the regional allocation, and then all the accounts that make up their districts or regions, and they'll be able to see things like that from there. And so we're trying to get this to make sure that we're providing as much information going out as possible with the accounting system and trying to be as transparent as we possibly can with this. Going from this, I'll be happy to take questions. Sorry, I had a little bit of trouble logging on, and then again, a lot of trouble making out the conversations that was going on there.
Okay, we have a question right here, Matt.
I can relay it.
Well, this goes back to the debit card thing, because most companies, many companies, use debit cards for miscellaneous stuff because it's less hassle, more efficient. Any kind of debit card is going to put a lot of owners back up volunteers to deal with a lot of this miscellaneous stuff. I'm just curious the rationale and if there's any potential in the future to revisit us having some sort of procurement card like most major corporations do for their people.
Okay, John, I don't know, did you hear that?
No, not at all.
Okay, all right, so what he's asking is about the debit cards. Many of us live off debit cards for our chapters now, and that's going to be taken away. And they want to know, and so now this is going to put the onus back on the members to go pay all these bills and wait for reimbursement. Is there a way for you folks to go back and revisit that and use some type of debit card like most major companies do with their employees that are responsible for buying things?
You know, this has come down from the board of directors, and so this is why we are going in this direction. What we've tried to do is provide alternatives to having to use debit cards. The chapters that are participating with Hyper, with this chapter social media program, Hyper has agreed for people that are doing Facebook ads and Google AdWords and things like that that require a credit card down for doing those things, to put those under the chapter account and build a chapter on a monthly basis for their usage for those things. We've tried to set up the national accounts with Office Depot so nobody is out going to get any type of office supplies, Panero and other things like that. The chapters can also go out and look locally for potential vendors that will allow for terms where they can be billed and then submit the bills for payment going out. And while some people, I've heard from a lot of chapters, oh, our vendors won't do that. I've heard from other chapters that actually asked, and a lot of vendors will do that. Especially some that have been, they have been working with SCORE for a number of years, and we've had more positive on that than, oh, they won't do that. So these are things that the chapter can do. They can do these proactively and try and find ways that they can set up terms. Unfortunately, if they're in certain positions and certain things, it might require a member to go out of pocket. And one of the things that we're trying to do to mitigate any type of hardship that might bring is to shorten the time of reimbursement. We've increased the periods of when we're cutting checks to get funds out back to the field. And with the ACH payment, this can shorten that even further because you're not having to rely on the U.S. mail to get a check to a individual for reimbursement and go directly into their bank account within 2 days after we received their Form 14 for a reambrsment. So we're not looking at that right now. I have not been tasked with that. My task was to try and reduce access, to make sure we're in a risk type situation that we are doing the best we can to be the best stewards of the federal funds and the funds that we have as an organization. We look at what's happened previously in the field, and literally all but one act of malfeasance that we've had in the field has all become of debit cards, and not because of some other type of activity. And so that seemed to be towards the board when they made this decision to be one of the key risks for for us being proper stewards of the funds. And so that was one of the the key components behind the trying to limit direct access from the field to cash that the organization has.
Okay, back here. Will you still be able to use Square for credit cards?
Yeah, as long as you can point the Square designation account back to your chapter's, which will be your sub account within Bank of America. As long as you can point it in there, then we'll be able to recognize the revenue that's come into the chapter. If the thing being is, if you're not having local bank accounts, it's not going to be going into local bank accounts. It'll be going into the Bank of America account as the designee account.
I'll add to that, like we talked yesterday, that PayPal will be incorporated on the workshop registration. We've been engaged, so people as they register can pay with PayPal. We're getting out of the cash business, as we've talked. We are going to work to try to get like a PayPal here or a Square device for every chapter to have and use, to be able to collect credit card payments if you aren't already at the point of sale, if you will.
I've got about 100 of those in my car if you'd like some. Yes, ma'am.
Since Panther is national account, do we need to use 1214 for that kind of an invoice?
Steve's shaking his head no, but John, the question is, do they need to use a Form 14 for a Panther account?
No, they do. For anything you have an actual invoice for, you just need to send the invoice in. You might have, you might want to start using, they have the Form 100s. We're going to be redesigning that just so if you send like 5 or 6 invoices in at a time, that they're listed and you can approve it just once by signing off on the Form 100 rather than signing every invoice. But it's up to the chapter of what they want to do. But we will take invoices directly for payment as long as we know that they are approved and that we have at least what chapter they're coming from.
And one real clear change. There will no longer be any checks or anything written by a chapter. There will no longer be any chapter level Form 14. Every invoice you get will be sent to John and they'll pay it and it'll just show up on your CFO report, which you're looking at.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, they'll be sent to accounting@score.org, not to me.
Okay, right over here. Okay. Okay, 2 questions, John. One is, what is the mechanism that will be used to transfer money from our existing bank to Bank of America? And secondly, what input will we have in designing our own forms and setting up our own accounting charts?
Okay, well, the first thing, it's going to be up, the chapter could either, there's 2 ways of done it. We've had just a few chapters in. It's either wire the money or write a check out of the account that will close the account and deposit that into the Bank of America account. We have no access to access your bank account and take money out of it. That requires the approval of the signers at the local level. So it's typically either you're going to be transferring, wiring money out into your Bank of America account, or you'll be cutting a check and doing that. There is not going to be any local chart of accounts. The whole idea is the centralized accounting is moving everything onto a centralized chart of accounts that we have cut. It's the chart of accounts that we use at National, that we have been using at the chapters for the past 6 years. If they've gone on to the intact system, we allow for sub-accounts within those in case a chapter is running some activity that they're currently tracking in their accounting system. And we will help out that way. But the idea is try to get away from Form 3s, because if, currently right now we have 300 chapters and 300 chart of accounts, and we have to do a reconciliation manually every year to try and get these under a uniform format. By allowing somebody to manipulate chart of accounts, we get out of having the ability for everybody looking at the same thing in the same way into the current system that we're currently at.
Yeah, you answered it. He was specifically asking about tracking an event. So with the sub-accounts, you can track the events.
Yeah, we believe, and actually what you see on the screen that's up here, after the local funds, how we have a field account column between the local funds and the national allocation. You will have an activity columns can be added to those, and you can run reports. The next slide. But right where that arrow is will be added any local activity accounts that you need to do. If you need to see that like that, or if you just need to run reports on it, it can be rolled up into the local accounts, and then you can select to run specific reports for that activity, and you can get a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet for that activity.
Okay, back to the room.
Yeah, it's unclear to me. We have other income. How does it decide whether a Panther invoice is going to be paid out of the actual invoice?
Okay, they have other income in addition to what their chapter does, and they're wondering how's the decision made whether to pay a Panther bill out of which pile of money? Is that correct? Okay.
If a Panther invoice comes in and it's not notated to pay from elsewhere, the first thing we're going to try and pay it from is the national allocation, because that is a valid expense for federal funds. If the national allocation is zero and we do not have anything from the chapter of where to charge it to, we will charge it to their local funds against any restricted funds that they might have. The last thing being, if there's an activity or something else they want it to charge to, the chapter will need to designate it on the invoice, and then we'll charge it how they want it to be charged. If they want it to come out of the local funds and not out of the national allocation, they can notate that on the invoice, and that's what we'll do. You know, they'll also have the ability, as they go back in and they see this report, be able to say, hey, I wanted that done here, you miscoded it, to just let us know, and then we will go in and reclassify the payment to the correct place it was supposed to be.
One thing that is an added benefit to this, folks, and those of you that have been around a while know this, every year we allocate, $3.5 million or whatever to the field, and every year, at the end of the year, there's $200,000 or $300,000 that doesn't get spent by chapters. You guys have gone through this fire sale at the end of the year. By doing this, we will ensure that every penny of the national allocation to chapters gets spent first. So I actually anticipate marginally seeing bank accounts rise by chapter accounts collectively rise by $100,000 or more every single year, because we're actually going to use the right money for the right things first. You're all paying for things right now out of your own accounts that by all rights could be charged to the federal grant, and for whatever reason it's not getting there. And so then if you underspend and someone else is overspending, we're going to be able to rectify that immediately in this process. So there is an actual benefit on our cash stance going forward too.
Okay, thank you. We have time for one last question. It goes to the chair, and that is, what is the timetable for rolling this out now?
We're about, I would say we're running up to about being 2 months behind schedule. We had to get the reports and the dashboard and things completed, trying to get documentation completed that we can get out to the chapters and the districts prior to the conversion. So we're not running currently on time as we would have liked to, but we're getting ready to roll this out in February to the Maryland beta chapters, and then we hope to start at some point in March with the regular chapters. And again, it's trying, that we're the first tranche to go out. And so we're just trying to make sure we have documentation and training materials together that have been vetted by the chapters that had already gone through the system, that we're getting enough out there so making it easy as possible for the chapters to transition over to the new system. And we're going to make sure that it's right and that everything is done correctly before we put chapters on the time clock of getting transferred.
Okay, thank you, John. We appreciate your time. There's still quite a few questions. We're going to ask the local attendees to add them to the parking lot, and Steve's going to put all these in his shirt pocket and take them back to DC and get us answers. Thank you, John. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks, guys.
Whoever's next is free to come on up here.
We're going to take on before we do that, Steve wants to come up.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment, and you're going to hear from Susan. And you all know Susan?
Yes.
All right. So I just want to say thanks to her, because what you're going to see, she is really. This was a weird idea about 2.5 years ago, and it worked with the advisory council back in the day. You worked on this way back when. What you're going to see is stuff that Susan and her team put together. I believe that this is one of the most important things we can do as an organization to help recruit and attract more people and keep more people. But I just wanted to say thank you and recognize Susan, because some of the tools that you're going to see are some really cool new platforms that she developed and she's using. And she's the person that really knows this inside and out. So if you have questions, she's the person to go to. But I just wanted to say thank you in front of everyone.
Thanks, Steve.
Great. All right. Can you hear me? It's kind of weird from up here. Okay. Madeline is giving every table a copy of the new volunteer onboarding checklist. There's just one you can share as a table. Any table that didn't get one? Yes. Okay. Great. Should be enough. So you can take a look at it now, but we're really actually going to do some table discussions in a few minutes, and that's really where you'll have that as a reference point if you haven't taken a look at it yet. Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to keep the presentation part of this pretty short and sweet. There are so many of you here who are a part of this program, who have heard about it already, who are implementing it to some degree, who are participating in the webinars that we do on a monthly basis. And I actually just want to say, how many people were aware of and or participated in the new the volunteer virtual conference last week on Thursday? Awesome. So actually, I was just reading a few of the comments, and as Steve mentioned, part of the reason for doing this onboarding program is realizing that we needed to make SCORE more flexible. We needed to be able to include more different kinds of people within the organization in order to continue to remain relevant. One of the other things we've learned is that we need to provide this learning just in time. So I know a lot of you may look at this checklist and think it's still too much. Some of you may look at this checklist that's at the table and think, oh my gosh, I can't possibly bring on a new volunteer without them going through a lot more than what's referenced here. What we're really trying to do is just-in-time learning for new volunteers. So we've really taken a very close look at what do you really need to know at the beginning, right in those first provisional period, and then what do you need to learn as you get started. So the new concept for the volunteer virtual conference is that it's every other month. And the one that we had last week was really targeted to people who were newly active at SCORE. You'd finished your provisional period and you were starting to see clients. So we showed them a lot of resources. And there were some great comments that I was just looking through that came out of newly active volunteers who were just saying, oh, I loved hearing about the resources and I just found it really helpful. I've got a couple client meetings this weekend coming up and this is going to really help. So I would urge you to take a look at it. We have put it up in SCORE training and you can share it at your chapter meetings. So on with our regularly scheduled program. These are the 4 classifications. Again, I think there are so many of you here today who are already implementing this program. You have your folks on board at the local level working on this. And as I mentioned, it's really about lowering the barriers to entry, getting more people involved, even if it's just a little bit to start. It's that they are beginning to drink the Kool-Aid of SCORE and then more and more get brought into the organization. So we do have these 4 classifications that are listed here. They are mentor, volunteer, workshop presenter, and subject matter expert. One of the things I just want to make sure everybody's aware of, we had a beta project. We had a bunch of chapters from the Southeast that were participating in the beta last year. And many of them are represented today in the room, and so thank you very much. One of the things the beta chapters learned, and granted the betas all raised their hands at NLC back in Baltimore, and they said they wanted to be a part of it. But we really had chapters participating in the beta that were had very few resources, and then we had some that basically had this program already up and running, and there was very little change for them. But they all accepted they accepted applicants at a higher rate, and they also got more people through the provisional process. So no matter where they were in the process, they all did better. They outperformed the national average, and that's a trend. And we could argue about the data and all that, but just in general, this is one of the critical success factors for us of the beta chapters. What we really learned is there were varying levels of acceptance of the program versus readiness to implement the program. So you can see we had the 16 beta chapters, and they all ended up all over the board. Some of them were very excited about the program, came to Baltimore, said they wanted to do it, and when they went back home, they maybe met with some resistance from the people who are actually implementing the program. So we have varying levels of acceptance versus readiness. But what we found was that the chapters that were accepting of the program, that had people who were really interested in it and wanted to figure out how to implement and use the tools, they outperformed even the beta chapters. So that is really, trying to work towards acceptance in your chapter is really, really critical. And we actually have a lot of tools to help you with that. So these are the critical success factors that we have identified for the program. So depending on where you are, you might actually, you start in different places, maybe you have some of these, maybe you have all of them, but these are the things we've identified as critical. Really matching the volunteer and the opportunity, having that values-based conversation with them, looking at the mission, vision, values. We have a values-based interview guidelines in the SCORE volunteer onboarding guidelines that serves as a basis for you to ask some of those questions to see about the values fit. Move quickly. Onboarding is not difficult, but there are a lot of pieces and there's a lot of opportunity for things to get delayed a week, another 2 weeks, another 3 weeks. And after, as soon as a volunteer applies with SCORE, that is when they are most excited about joining. So really trying to put the people in place to make sure you can move quickly and engage people in the mission as quickly as possible. Assigning coaches is a critical success factor. And that is one person who is proactively reaching out to the new volunteer to ensure that they're going through the onboarding process as quickly and easily as possible. And many chapters have had coaches in the past, but they may not necessarily have been proactive. And, we want to think about this as how we would work with clients. How we would always be proactively reaching out to engage clients that have indicated interest in working with us. And we need to do the same thing with our volunteers. To the role, this is back to the just-in-time piece that I mentioned already, there are some of you who will definitely argue with some of the modules that are required on here. But that is absolutely, the idea is if we need to get people in there, they need to learn the basics, and if they want to do more, we welcome it. But with the real sticking point is we don't want people coming in and saying you need to do all of these things before you can get started. These are the things you really need to know to get started, and if you'd like to do more, that would be wonderful, but that's not the requirement. So we really have taken a look at that, and the beta chapters helped us refine this idea of training to the role. Keeping track and managing your roster is the other piece, and we have made some changes to CORE so that you can actually track people. You can actually place them as provisional workshop presenter. So there are classifications available. I'll show you a screenshot of that so that if you don't know how to do that already, you can. The 4 classifications are listed here. Again, I think many of you are aware of these, and we can certainly, if there are questions, we can talk about it more, but this really does outline the mentor, subject matter expert, workshop presenter, and volunteer. And the big note is people can absolutely join SCORE as a workshop presenter, and they can also continue to be a workshop presenter without joining SCORE. This is not a requirement. So my recommended first steps for any of you who are not already implementing the program is to inform your chapter about the program. Just put it on the agenda at your next chapter meeting. We have a great slide deck. It's actually really long. It has anything you could ever want to talk about regarding this program. These slides are in there. Everything that you could want. You can pick and choose what you would want to use to inform your chapter about this program. We've found with a lot of our chapters that having this conversation, some of these people you've talked about who have become, who aren't really doing much mentoring anymore, and you needed to have conversations about maybe firing them from the chapter, actually talking to them about these classifications may allow them to say, hey, actually, I'd really love to just be a subject matter expert now. So it allows you to retain them and have them contribute in the way they want to. So I would definitely ask you to inform them, tell them about the 4 classifications, ask them how they'd like to contribute, and then you can manage your roster and you can really keep track of who is doing what. This is just a screenshot of the SCORE Volunteer Onboarding Guidelines, and where you can find, actually at the bottom here, is that onboarding overview presentation. So if you're needing that to show people in your chapter what this is all about, that's where it is. This is just a screenshot. I'll move quickly through it on the new classifications. You do this under the volunteer profile. The chapter admin should do it. All the details are there, and you'll get that in the slide deck. At this point, I want to make sure we have time for table discussions and sharing. So the last thing I'll just show you here at the end is these are, again, screenshots of where to find this material in the Volunteer Center and the onboarding team who is supporting you from the national office. So let's go back to our table discussion. We have several guests here today from the Charlotte chapter. I would like to, we've got Bob Burton here in the front, and Jim's gonna have to help me out with all the last names. Bill Baker in the back, also from the Charlotte chapter, and Don Fisher is here also from the Charlotte chapter. Since we're, and Julia and Jim, you know. They've been here with us since yesterday, and are also chair and past chair and assistant district director. So we have all these folks here with us from Charlotte because they have been implementing this program. They were part of the beta, and they actually had many of these pieces in place for years before that, which is why we have several past chairs with us as well. There are many of you in the room who have experience with it, but there's at least one person, actually there's almost 2 people at every table, who are already have implemented this program to some degree. So we're going to start off with this table sharing, and I'm going to ask the folks, and they know who they are, to kick off your table sharing with how implementing this program has made your chapter more dynamic and or increased your numbers. Okay, so we're actually going to take most of the time we have left for you all to share at your tables, and then we're going to have about 10 minutes at the end to report out. Jim or Ralph, anything else from your end? Yes. So the face of the volunteer roster report is live, and it shows on the face of the roster right now, as of January 11th. Yes. You can see it without having to export the data, which is what you had to do previously. Okay, so let's get started. Folks who are designated to kick off the sharing, you guys go ahead, and I'm looking forward to listening in. All right, everyone. Kathy has urged me to speak more loudly. All right, thanks for the good discussion, everyone. Thanks to all of you. We're going to start over here with Pat, and as I mentioned, I want every group to just share a takeaway. And if you're able, if one of the tables has already said the same takeaway, you can come up with a second. That would be awesome. Okay, start with Pat. Oh, actually, Pat, come on up here and use the mic. So if you want, we're going to go around the room like this. So your person is going to need to come up front.
Basically, as we went through adding the new roles, that forced everybody to kind of relook at things. And basically, through the whole event, the interview process changed a little bit so that expectations were maybe more defined, as opposed to it loosely in the past, because everybody had to be the same thing. The other thing was that the subject matter experts, see how we're evolving that, but most of those are actually coming from people that were disenchanted full-time members, that this is a way now to, as they change, now they can continue working and continue being fulfilled, but that's where their subject matter experts are evolving from.
Thank you, Pat. We have the person on the table in the back. Come on up while Ricky shares his.
Good morning. From our table, in our discussion, we felt that flexibility of working with the different, as we would see, age groups or experience levels was more important for us in terms of onboarding. As we began to go through our process, we wanted to recognize where, first of all, the engagement would be solid, but also, two, orientation through the process would also allow our process, so we're being flexible. because of our some of our sizes were different in terms of number of mentors as well as volunteers, but also two, a different experience level in terms of business owners being younger, and as well as making that transition between allowing the relationship to grow between what we call younger business owners compared to more seasoned or retired owners.
All right. We're gonna have this table next, so have whoever's ready, just ready to come right after Ralph.
Thank you. Did I got this at the right location? I was so hoping I wouldn't have to stand in front of a group today, but I didn't get that wish, did I? Anyway, I'm Ralph Neesmith from the Northeast Georgia chapter. And what I'm sharing with you now is something that we did recently as a result of the new onboarding process that raised the bar from 3 co-mentoring sessions to 6. So it made us think of how are we going to get this done and make sure that we do one of the most important things, and that is we know when we get somebody to volunteer, the sooner we get them involved, the better off we all are. So that was the motivation, and what we decided to do was to have a role-playing session so that we could get 3 co-mentorings out of the way at one time. And we got national approval for that. We didn't strike out on our own without checking. So we verified that if we did it, it would count. So what we did is we had 3 different sessions. One was retail-oriented, one was product-oriented, one was service-oriented.
Hello?
And we had 2 mentors that did it. One played the role of the client, the other played the role of the mentor. We had all the trainees in the room. So we had 6 different people actually providing training, and we had a timekeeper also to keep up how long this took. It took us 3 hours to do this, and sometimes you get unintended consequences, and one of those was that the view of the group was that that was the best training we had ever offered. So as a result, we're going to now have role playing as part of our chapter meetings periodically, because we all continue to need to learn something. So that's what we got out of that. It was a positive thing. Initially, I thought it was going to be quite negative. So, thank you.
We'll keep going, and then you guys can talk, and we can also share. Irene?
Okay, first some facts from the table. First, we were thrilled that SCORE National has put together a standard to onboarding. Chapters are doing everything from nothing to a lot, so it gives us a direction. As a table, we range from 50% into the onboarding as defined to 100%. So some of the chapters have been already at that. So takeaways, big one for us. Yep, a big one for us was that we needed all to do a better job with the coaching mentor, and there are slides that Susan has available so you can work. Thank you.
Yeah, our table spent a lot of time talking about subject matter experts and how they're classified and how do we even keep track of them? Because there was a lot of angst about, I need a subject matter expert in this particular skill set, but how do I find them? And the takeaway was a really good idea is somebody creates a spreadsheet that has all the various skills identified, and then identified whether they're competent, comfortable, or high performing, or just standard. And I thought that was a great idea.
You're the spokesperson. I know. You all saw me yesterday, so I'm not sure you want to see me again. We had some discussions over here, especially from Don from here in Charlotte, about some of the things that they've gone through in terms of the interview process. We had a long discussion about the different classifications and how I think everybody at the table kind of got an idea of how we can do things. I picked up some ideas on you about the role play, because we have so many new people coming in. We've got to get these things, we've got to get the new people through the training faster. So I picked that up as a big idea. So I think everybody got something out of this at the
Okay. I guess at our table gave me a chance to show off what I put together. I put this document when we first were looking at it, and I don't like paper, so the first thing I did was I just transposed it into Excel. So I created this exact same document as an Excel document, and then I put columns in there to where I could put the names and fill in the dates that they put it in. So the takeaway from our group table was that I emailed them all a copy of that spreadsheet. Further discussions we had too, though, were around, okay, now once you get this filled in, once you're doing this, the close sessions and that, the whole technical process of, you get a person in, and then you've got to request their scorevolunteer.org email account. And so I kind of walked them through, you do that. Then you also, once you give them get their email account, then you've got to go back, and I always forget this step. You got to go back into CORE and then add them as a member into your chapter. If you don't do that, then they can't log into CORE. But those were the takeaways that we did, and so they seem to like the spreadsheet.
Great, and actually the spreadsheet is going to be available in the SCORE Volunteer Onboarding Guidelines 2.0. We'll have this version that you all see on your table, but also the Excel version, which ironically it was originally in Excel. The beta chapters will remember they used an Excel document. Then it got created into this PDF format. So we're going to have both available.
Hi, I'm Terry Robinson from Memphis. Our table talks about the questions that are in the onboarding guide, and they're on page 12 or 13, I think. And there are a lot of them on there, and they're really helpful because you shouldn't ask every question of every mentor candidate, but you can write down 4 or 5 of them and give yourself a direction going on how you want to talk to somebody. But more important than that is to listen to answers. That's when you're talking to somebody, whether it's a client or a prospective volunteer, is listening to the answers they have to the questions you ask, because they can take you in a completely different direction. But there are 12 or 13 questions that you can draw from, and I did this the very week we had one of the phone webinars, and I went down and looked at the question and went, I want to go in this direction with this, but here are some other ways I could go, wrote them down, listened to answers, and had a really good discussion.
Thank you, Gary. That is the values-based interview guidelines, which are part of the SCORE Volunteer Onboarding Guidelines. And we actually will be talking about that more in February's webinar on the onboarding program, is actually delving a little bit more into the interview process and values. So we have a webinar on a monthly basis that is also on the recruiting in there. So you can, on that page is a list of all the webinars. And very last, Gloria, I'd love for you to tell us what you take away from your table.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I was sitting at a very lively table. We had a lot of discussion, and I was sitting back listening. I didn't say anything until the very end, and they say, okay, you can be the spokesperson. The one thing that is agreed upon at our table is this is a great process. This onboarding and the different categories of SCORE volunteers is wonderful. Everybody was excited. The one takeaway is everybody is doing it differently. You have a different idea on how this works for each chapter. A lot depends on the size of the chapter, the location, the logistics. So everyone is doing it differently, but everyone is doing it successfully.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. And I think Steve wants to add just a few more remarks, and we'll close out the session. Thanks very much for your participation. We have one more. Kathy Pierce is also here from Charlotte. Just wanted to recognize her. Thanks for coming and sharing your expertise as well.
I just wanted to highlight some of the things we talked about yesterday. So all of this is baked into SCORE Engage, and I think we hit on it a little bit, but these roles are being developed. So when you get SCORE Engage, it will already have you'll be able to categorize people directly in as active and provisional into a role. The training requirements will be there, so you'll actually see a different training path for people that you put in as a workshop presenter versus someone that's a full mentor. But even before that, in the application phase, we're changing the application that people are even going to get on SCORE.org, so that they're going to tell us why they want. We're asking them in a few words, tell us why you want to serve SCORE. You're going to be able to hear in their own words what they're looking to get out of it. And then we're going to ask them how they want to serve. And some of the things, and Michael Harris isn't here today, right? But he's seen this. So like we've got things like, I really want to help teach clients content. Well, immediately you start thinking workshop presenter. Or people, I really want to sit down one-on-one with people. You're thinking mentor. So you're going to be able to see, even on the application phase, what people are saying they want to do, and that'll help you in the interview process using the interview guidelines and actually tailoring it to the role too. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that all of this is truly being integrated in a way that we've never done anything at SCORE before. So it's all out there, and this is something that certainly I think you're gonna get, whether you're doing it or whether you're doing it now or not, you're gonna get it come the new technology system, because it is baked in. So thanks all. Yeah. Yes, so the training, So Engage will know when you put in when you accept a member, they will immediately become provisional, and you'll choose a role. And so if you choose someone as a subject matter expert, Engage will know that they need to complete X number of co-mentoring sessions or not, whatever it is, and it will track as you're appropriately logging them in as a co-mentor or whatever it might be. It will tell you when the system sees that they've completed the required number of sessions in order to move from provisional to active. And I know you guys love roster management in CORE. I never gripe about that, right? It will not allow you, the system in the future will not allow you to move someone from provisional to active until they've completed all the requirements. So if it's code of ethics, or you've only done 5 co-mentoring sessions and you need 6 to be a mentor, or you haven't, whatever it is, it will not allow you to move someone forward until they've actually checked all the boxes. Yeah, the volunteer will be able to see exactly their status in the process. Their coach will be able to see the status in the process. Break.
I like absolute silence before I will speak. My name is Barry Love. As you can probably tell by what I speak. No, really, I'm from Georgia. Look, I'm wearing the pink shirt. Of course, everyone for all in Georgia has to wear one of these. My presentation today is entitled Marketing and Social Media, but the subtitle, and perhaps the more important title, is Low-Hanging Fruit. When I went for my first job, my background is in nutrition and marketing. And I got a job as a beef and dairy specialist for a feed company. Now, I had a knowledge of nutrition that was theoretical, but I had never been on a farm, and I had never been involved with agriculture in any way. My first day on the job, I'm sitting in my new office, and I'm very proud of myself, and the phone rings, and the voice says, it's one of our salespeople. He says, you're the new beef and dairy specialist. I said, yes, sir. How can I help you? He said, at what age can you start feeding alfalfa to dairy cows? At what age can you start feeding alfalfa hay to dairy cows? I didn't know what alfalfa was. I didn't know what hay was. I knew what a dairy cow was, but I thought they drank milk or something from a cow. So I improvised, you've got to be quick on your feet. I said, I was just reading something like that the other day. Can I, this is pre-internet, so can I get back to you and I'll give you a better answer? I said, fine, I wrote down the question. Over the next few months, I noticed that there were about 20 questions I would be asked, maybe 30. And as soon as I had those 30 down, I was an expert. And I've been cruising that way ever since. So what you'll see what I'm getting at shortly, but what I'm going to talk about today.
I want to know what the age is.
It's actually about. Write that down in case you need to answer.
I just thought you were going to say it's
So, how to become an expert, right? So, what I wanted to do today, instead of just giving you a sort of very traditional talk about social media, which is another subject along with feeding dairy calves that I'm not an expert on, I wanted to talk about what low-hanging fruit is available to us in some of these areas that I don't believe we as an organization are taking advantage of. So when our clients come to see us, typically they have, they come about a number of issues, and you're all familiar with these. They want to know how to start a business. Very typically for people who come to see us, they want to know about writing a business plan. They certainly want to talk about licenses, paperwork, what do I need in way of approvals. Access to capital, of course, a huge one. We have seminars and workshops on access to capital. But when I was the workshop chair for a while with the Atlanta chapter, one of the topics that was always got us a very good attendance at workshops was anything to do with marketing, sales, social media. There's a huge thirst for knowledge in these areas that somehow we weren't able to respond to at the mentoring level. Certainly we would put on workshops about this, and those were very well attended. But we know that emails, the website, and social media are the top 3 marketing tools used by small business. You can see the percentages there. very high. But we know for a fact that for a lot of small businesses, I'm talking B2C businesses, this is mostly all of their marketing plan. They're not advertising in local media anymore. Local media is almost dead. They're not doing radio and TV. Direct mail is horribly expensive and proving to be almost worthless in many cases. I know when we get so much direct mail in our mailbox, and between the mailbox and the house, what do? My wife and I had a small business for a few years, and we did 3 email marketing. Some professional assistants. I think we spent $8,000 on those campaigns, and I don't think we got a single client, not one. What's alarming about these figures, though, too, is that 51% of people have a website. You know the statistic. I'm not sure exactly what it is now, but a very large percentage of our clients still don't have a website. So what can we do to help them? First of all, I just wanted to say, when I talk about social media, I'm really only going to be talking about Facebook today. The others are important. They have a role, but it's a 45-minute presentation. So what do you want for nothing, okay? So what kind of support do people ask for? What are they looking for? When it comes to website support, it's really everything. They want to know about the design, the format, the content. How do I structure this? How do I keep it up to date and keep it fresh? Mobile compatibility is a huge issue now because most people access tablets or phones as opposed to a laptop. And of course, the big one, maintenance, people care. How do I keep at it? How do I find the time to keep it going? Same situation almost with Facebook. I should have a Facebook page. I do have a Facebook page, but what do I do with it? How do I maintain it? What should I post? How do I post? How often do I post? What are the messages I should be using? Making it work for them. Seems to be a big difference between I have a Facebook page and I have a Facebook page that actually does something for my business. And similarly with emails, what kind of an email, what do I do with an email campaign? What's the content of the letter? How long should the letter be? What's the format? What's the use of pictures? How often should I do it? Once a month, once a quarter? What should I do? They need a mailing list. How can I get names? There are regulations about who you can put on your mailing list, right? So how can I add names to my list? Can I buy lists? Do I just have to rely on the business cards that I pick up as I go through life? So all kinds of questions as well. So our challenge, and I include myself in this comment. We have relatively few younger volunteers with strong backgrounds in these areas. I still remember very well the first video game. You remember Pong? Some of you remember that, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the game, for those of you who are too young to remember, this was the first video game. It had a sort of white paddle that went up and down the side, and this dot went backwards and forwards, and it went pong. It's very exciting. I'm getting really good at it now. But at the time, I was terrible. But we don't have a lot of people in our chapters with real expertise in social media, website design, and email marketing. Now, there are exceptions, but in general rule, we don't have that depth in our chapters. It's a scarce resource, and there's a limited supply. It's like royal jelly, if you like. It's just certain people who are very skilled in this area, and we need more access to them. There are SCORE workshops and online webinars that touch on this issue, but I don't think we're in a position to say we have to fully approach it. Yes, I'm grateful to Eileen and to Steve, who both talked about the need for increased training and increased familiarity with the whole areas of email marketing, social media, and so on that our organization needs as we move forward, because our clients are very, very heavily into an era when this is important. We used to use Constant Contact to put on workshops about email marketing in Atlanta. They do a good job. They do a very good job. But of course, their objective doing that is to harvest email addresses. And generally, as I remember it, they won't give you the slides unless you provide them with your email address. So they use it as a way of building customers. Nothing wrong in that, but some people find it a little disquieting. So where is our low-hanging fruit? to go back to my title slide. It's a great picture, isn't it? Took me 3 hours to find that. No. Let's talk about, yes, probably copyrighted as well. That's right. So I shall deny everything if any of you report to me. Okay? Let's talk about websites. One of the first things I do when I was mentoring, I'm not mentoring anymore because I'm having so much fun driving up and down the highways of Georgia. But when I was mentoring, one of the first things I would do is look at a client's website. And I'm always puzzled when I've heard a couple of mentors say, no, I don't want to bother with all that website stuff. I just want to talk face to face across the desk. And I really think that's a mistake because just going to a client's website can tell you an awful lot. Is the website HTTPS certified for security reasons? That's the thought. Is it slow to load? Are some of the links broken, or do we have the page 403 error or under construction? How long is that sign been there? Is there a call to action on every page? What do you want the visitor to the website to do? Do you want them just to look and absorb the information, or do you want them to do something, make a call, make an appointment, order something? Not seller tablet compatible. We've talked about that. Out of date content, dated articles or events that have already taken place. When you see that on a website, what does it tell you? They don't care, right? They're not really serious about it. So if I see a website that has, there's an article on the front page that's dated June 2011, I lose interest immediately because I haven't thought of anything there to say since June 2011. Some clients treat their websites just as an online brochure, so they essentially photocopy the brochure and paste it up. There are problems with certain browsers. It works in Firefox, but it doesn't work in Edge. Nothing works in Edge, right? Poor quality images or web source photos. People who steal images off the internet and put them in their presentations, I think, to be ashamed, right? It's difficult to move ahead. There isn't a logical progress. They want you to fill out a form. They're asking for too much information. This is a big one with me, spelling or grammatical errors. If I see spelling errors on a website, it's like nails on the chalkboard. I stop right away. Color schemes. Even when the word is spelled incorrectly, they bother me. And the website is focusing on the business. It's the client telling people what my business is and how many warehouses I have and how many products we have in inventory. He's talking about his business as opposed to offering to solve problems or needs the client might have. Here's a website. It's not one of ours, as you can see, but it's a perfectly legitimate website. It's actually a website from Europe, so no one's going to be offended here, I'm sure. But that is somebody's idea of a way to sell products. Now, I'm not saying all of our clients have websites like this, but very often when I go to a client's website, there are 2 or 3 or 4 glaring situations that immediately they start saying, well, I'm going to fix that. Or, yeah, well, it looks like that tonight, but it'll be okay tomorrow. You hear that a lot. So I would urge, how do we respond to clients regarding their websites? First of all, visit the website. And in many cases, I don't think our clients have been to their own websites in a long time. Because they're surprised at what they see when you sit together. Oh, I didn't know that. That's not supposed to come up. That's not working. Why is that? Say that. Use a checklist of items to review. I don't have this checklist yet, but if you pay me enough, I can produce one. Remind clients to visit their website often and to keep it fresh and interesting. And also be prepared after you've gone through this triage, if you like, this preliminary review of their website. We need to have 2 to 3 maybe subject matter experts. That's exactly what we've been talking about. Subject matter experts
that we can refer them to, we can take them to the next level. But you are going to solve an awful lot of problems just by going through some of these basic steps. I had a client who was running a management consulting company, and she'd been in business for 6 or 7 years. She came to see me and she said, my business is falling off badly. I don't know what's happening. We went to her website. Half the links were broken. It doesn't look professional. So anyone who is thinking of hiring her as a consultant, probably the first thing they're going to do is go to the website, right? And what would they see? Things that don't work, links that don't work, neglect. So I think there are many things we can do with our clients just by going to their website, sitting with them and talking them through how the website is looking, whether the calls to action are there, is the phone number easily accessible, is it on every page, is it easy for the client or the prospective client to do, the prospective customer, to do what your client wants. Here's a checklist. Very small, but it's the kind of thing that we could have. These are available online. We can design our own. We can have a store template, a website, checklist, template, something like that. Just all the things that the client needs to look at, make it personal, show distinction, have a clear purpose, follow calls to action, and so on. All right, so having dealt with that dragon, go on to the next one, social media. Whenever we used to have a workshop, I would always, on this subject, I would always say, how many in the room has a website? So, how many has a Facebook page? Most of the hands go up. But if you ask them, how many of you are satisfied with the results that you're achieving with these tools? Almost no hands go up. Nobody's satisfied. All right. So what can we do to help? Here's a list, they could be on our checklist of the common problems with Facebook pages. You are broadcasting, not interacting. You're not trying to find out what the customer wants, you're simply telling themselves about your business or what you're doing. There's a set it and forget it philosophy. I've got my Facebook page up. What's next? I'm done. Your business profile is incomplete. Even Facebook notes this on their instructions. A lot of people leave their profile incomplete. You don't use the opportunity to tell people in the profile the services and products that you offer. Show your human side. You know how many times we say people do business with people, not necessarily organizations or structures. Or show your people side. Show maybe the people working in your organization, your customer service representatives, the people they will be dealing with. Talk about the social life of some of your sales representatives. Be human. There are a whole bunch of rules of Facebook pages. I mean, they publish the rules that you have to observe, and you can be, access to your site can be damaged if you're not following the rules. So make sure that the client is aware of that. My favorite bugaboo again, grammatical and spelling errors. Really bugs me, as you may have guessed by now. Video posts are powerful. The Facebook page is difficult to find. How are people going to get there? Are the links between your website and your Facebook page easy to find and easy to follow? Failure to use the power of the given way. What do we mean by that? I think a well-accepted internet model now is that you give something away, a taste, a flavor, a shortened version, a simplified version, but you charge for the premium version. It's well accepted now that this is the way it works. Are we using that? Create shareable content. Put stuff on your Facebook page that people are going to want to share with other people because it's interesting, because it's funny. You know, cat videos. Everybody loves cat videos. I think finally that's when cats are finally found a reason to exist, right? They didn't have one until cat videos were invented. I mean, there are a whole bunch of places where you can go to get discussions on how to use your Facebook site. Ask a question. No open-ended questions. Yes or no questions. Ask a question. People will respond. Keep it short. clear call to action, and that call could be click if you agree, you know, comment if you don't. Make a hopefully not too controversial statement, but put out something out there and get people to respond. Offer valuable information. Again, just enough to prompt them to want to know more. Give them a link, obviously, to a website, an app, event, your website, your events. Be positive. I think that's a given. Post an image or better a video. And I might add, this is relevant to both SCORE and SCORE chapters. If you go on our SCORE chapter Facebook pages, the National Media Service is doing a great job. There are almost no posts by individual SCORE members, almost zero. I couldn't find any. I did an exhaustive 20-minute search. So let's have an exercise. You've been sitting long enough. This is a practical exercise. This is a real workshop. Here is a message that you would like to get out to your clients. SCORE can help you, or prospective clients. SCORE can help you get that. SCORE can help you get your business started. You have working individually. You have 3 minutes to make that into a better Facebook page. Starting now. Come on, work. You have to rewrite it as a, what would you write that as a Facebook page? You're going to make it compelling and interesting. And you now have 2 minutes and 45 seconds. See a lot of people not doing anything. There will be people picked on to answer this question. How do you make that into a relevant, interesting page? What would you do to it? What would you add to it? How would you change it? I'm willing to bet for a lot of people in this room, it's the first time you've ever written a Facebook post. It would be for me. I have never done it. 1 minute gone. Remember, you're trying to get people interested. You're trying to get them to want to know more. You're trying to get them to be excited about this. There's no right answer here. There are lots of right answers. 30 seconds. You done? All right, we'll say that's the time. All right, who would like to share what they have? I'm sure you would, Dale.
Absolutely.
There we go.
What started it? I think one of the first things on it. We're going to say
That's fantastic. Very good. Wasn't that great? Who else has got one they'd like to see?
free resources to get your business started available now. There's a video playing.
Right.
Video. Click here to get support from an expert today.
Right. One more? How about a lady? Anita. Great. Yeah, so I mean, this is easy to do, even if you've never done it before, right? This is a little unfamiliar. I wrote this, yours are probably better. Starting a business, SCORE helps with free mentoring and tools, chapters across the USA, click with you. Right? A video would be even better. Yes, I mean, I just had a little SCORE logo there. Took me about an hour to maneuver that into the right position. But a video playing here would be much better, absolutely. My point is, this is not typical, and yet if you go to the Facebook page, have no posts from any SCORE mentor or any member of the chapter, other than which, as I say, is a good program and doing a good job, but this could be so much more. Could be so much more. Here's an example of a good Facebook post. We have a new menu with half-price apps, 3 to 6 p.m., 9 to close. To celebrate, we're giving away 2 $50 gift cards. Follow these steps to enter. Tag a friend, like and share the post. Winners announced on Facebook 3rd of February 2017. It's a nice little post, right? It's going to cost them $100 basically, and maybe they'll get 30, 40, 50, I don't know, 100. But the thing with this approach is you're going to play with it. You're going to see what kind of approach works best, what kind of wording works for you. You're going to try one thing and try another. What I'm encouraging us to do is get members of our chapter involved in posting on our Facebook pages and make them more personal and perhaps they appear with just a national social media program. We know, of course, and maybe you were recommending these to your customers, but with all the social media platforms that are out there, there's a variety of companies that actually offer one-stop management of this. So your client can be, probably the best known is Hootsuite. There's all kinds of them. And they will help you set up a program that posts across all the social media platforms and help your clients get their message across. Not for very much money. There's usually a dashboard to control it. You can manage different platforms. There's a range of programs. It costs between $50 to $300 a month. Now, but at the same time, if this is your primary way of advertising your small business, this might be something your clients should. All right, let's move on to email campaigns.
Sorry?
Yes, sir.
One way.
Oh,
you know,
yes, Dan.
Now this has to do with Facebook, with Facebook, and
right.
not having volunteers. Answer. A good way to get personalized information is to have your Facebook page linked to your partner pages. So if you go to our Facebook page, I didn't look, but we don't have any volunteers who are posting on it. But our partners from the chamber, all the chambers, you know, the Cobb Chamber, the Gwinnett Chamber, the cities that we said it, they post and they're in line in our activity stream. So it looks very personal. It looks like we are announcing an event at the Cobb Chamber, even though we didn't do a thing except had the Cobb Chamber linked to our Facebook page, and we, of course, in return, linked to theirs. So you can do it without having your volunteers. Well, that's a great idea. Yeah, so the driver is you've got to get people to go to your Facebook page. You have to get people to go to your website. You have to ask yourself, how do you engage people? And AskScore has been used for years. How many of you have used the AskScore campaigns? Well, we've used them in the past, and then we stopped using them, and we started having a little bit blip in over the holidays. There was a little bit of slowdown, so I thought, well, how do you get people? Let's do a little soft sell. I went back up to the national thing, and of course, there are 500 AskScore columns in a Word document or some such number. And it was a rainy day, and I scheduled out 6 months worth of AskScore emails. We have our constant contact database is about 8,000 plus active email addresses. And I figured every 2 weeks on a Tuesday morning, we got one. This morning showed up. I pre-scheduled them. It took me about an hour and a half to do, roughly 24. And it's to drive people to our website and to our Facebook page. Very soft sell. Every time one comes out, I can check Google Analytics and I can see a blip up. I know exactly when that email is being released because I can see it, that people are going to both our Facebook page with increased impressions and our website. Of course, they are posted on both Facebook page. The AskScore column is on our Facebook page and our Twitter account. And so it's an easy thing to do. It literally takes it's not much more than an hour, and you put it on autopilot. And the columns are great. I don't know, by the way, if any of you have written any of those, thank you, because they are really good emails. No, so what what I do is I send out an email to 8,000 plus, and let's see what we sent out this morning, because like I said, I don't even remember. I did it, I think, and the subject line is, so these as I have an idea for a new product, ask SCORE. So everyone has something, ask SCORE. And then there's this article that whoever wrote it, 3 tips for product development success. And at the bottom it says select a mentor, and it goes to the website. Now I always use score.org rather than our website because it gets to us anyway. And I like, because we're in a metro area with 3 chapters, I don't like to have somebody who picks it up from a different place. But then on the Facebook page, so that gets sent out through Constant Contact, and on the Facebook page, again, through Constant Contact, you can post, there's a posting that says, read this Ask SCORE column. And on the Twitter feed, there's a tweet that says, you know, click here to read, to find out how, what did I tell you the topic was? If you have an idea for a new business, for a new product. So it all feeds back to driving traffic. And it's soft sell. It's not, you know, I mean, there's a paragraph at the bottom with a quote from Ken Yancey, but the idea is to get us and keep us front of mind. And I don't only want clients or prospective clients to get, the only thing they get from us is this next workshop. Sorry, Anita. I mean, we do all of our workshop stuff that way too, right. But this is soft sell. This is get out there, make sure everybody, and by the way, this thing is being forwarded now by the chambers, 2 of the chambers. I noticed forwarded it the other day out to I don't know who it's their base. So you get this exponential growth when you do something as easy. Again, I didn't write a thing. I wrote the subject line. I didn't like the.
There's a difference between selling sushi and cold dead fish.
Right. And I happen to think that often we sell SCORE as cold dead fish.
So, for example, when we have a regular basis for legal issues, I'm almost trying to get her to say, how do you change the title to 13 ways to stay out of jail?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, something that's more interesting than just legal issues.
Right.
But we still do that. If you look at the titles of most of my workshops, they say kind of provocative title, right, to get people. Let's talk about email campaigns and the challenges that our clients have with email campaigns. The obvious ones. How do I build a mailing list? I'm starting my business. You know, I'm new. I only have 25 people on my list, and most of them are related to me. How do I get beyond that? What type of email should I be sending? What are the objectives of these emails? Am I trying to sell something? Am I building awareness of my brand, of my organization, of the front lines? Certainly the design of the email, you know, the content creation and the format, the mailing campaigns themselves. How do I send these out? How do I actually physically get these emails to go out? And then, of course, analyzing the results. And this is an area where certainly all the same things that we've talked about in the last 2 points have come up. You know, creating engaging subject lines. That was just talking about something that's going to grab people's attention. The subject line's the first thing they see. So what are you going to say in that subject? Write to one person. You know, you're not talking to a stadium. You're writing to one person, the person who's going to read it. Write quality content. Send from a person, not a company. Good point. Send at the right time. Segment your list carefully. Make sure you're sending it to people who have a potential interest in what you're offering. Don't buy leads. You know, you can buy prepackaged programs and things. We suggest we don't do that. Keep your list fresh. Format them for mobile devices. All the standard pieces of advice. A lot of clients do use email campaign management companies, and of course, Constant Contact is the most perhaps the best organization, but there are a bunch of others, so you can certainly recommend these to your clients. And I think this is one area where probably professional management comes quicker rather than later. So would-be entrepreneurs need advice and guidance on setting up their Facebook pages, their websites. An important point about this subject is
this is more relevant even to people who already, and we're always saying we wish we have more people with existing businesses, right? In our area, it tends to be about 70, 75% of people who come to see us want to start a business or are thinking of starting a business. Only about 25 to 30 years to have a business. If we are better at doing this kind of thing, we would probably get more clients who actually have a business because they want to help with the social media and the websites. Existing small business owners are frequently unhappy with their social media presence. As I said, their websites are often neglected. You only have to go there and look at them. They lack confidence regarding email campaigns, and I think many SCORE mentors are not comfortable giving advice on these subjects. And this applies to our volunteers. We've covered this point really. There's really very little posting by SCORE volunteers. It's mostly events, which is not a bad thing in itself, but we've got to be more than just an event calendar. The National Social Media Program, unfortunately, has resulted in a lot of chapters thinking that this is now being taken care of. I don't need to worry about it because I'm on the National Media Program. My Facebook page is full. My postings are full. Clients don't have this luxury. We don't have a National Social Media Program to take advantage of. So how can we best help our clients? Well, it all ties back to what we've been talking about. Perhaps it would be great if every chapter could identify 2 to 3 subject matter experts, or possibly more, who could support 1 or more chapters. For example, if we have a couple of 3 subject matter experts in the Atlantic area, they could certainly support the 3 Atlantic area chapters, possibly the whole of the Georgia district. Now, we're looking for help in areas like email marketing, website design, and Facebook and other social media platforms. Now, we're not asking these people to give away the whole SCORE, obviously, but at least enough so that our clients can get to the point where they feel they're actually starting to make progress. I think we need to either commission or acquire workshops to support and educate clients across the country in these areas. And again, website design, Facebook, and email marketing. We have some workshops, but they're not what they need to be. I think these workshops need to cover the very basic steps, the introductory steps. We're very good at exhorting our clients to say, launch an email campaign or build a website, and they don't really know how to do that. They don't know what the next stage is. And though there's a lot of people out there who will do it for them, they're uncertain as to what should I pay for this. It's a $500 job, it's a $3,000 job, it's a $5,000 job. I just don't think people have a feel for it. They don't know what they should be paying, how much they should be paying for these kind of services. We could use some to-do or to checklists, which we have done regularly, that would guide our clients in at least the initial areas of website design, social media basics. This would honestly address many of the issues that they face, and I think would raise the images more in their eyes. Perhaps the appointment of social media champions who ensure that members who are interested can enhance their social media skills. Some suggestion would be that why not have 2 or 3 members of your family who basically engage in conversations on the Facebook. Somebody posts a question and has one of the others post a reply, maybe make it a little bit controversial, see if you can generate a conversation that's going. So we need someone who knows what we don't know. And training of mentors to address obvious issues and get them comfortable with the tools that can be practical help. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of it's free, but perhaps our mentors at the moment are not ready to address that. This last part, SCORE has its own low-hanging fruit. We have this new feature, I'll show it in just a second, that some have taken advantage of, whereby when somebody says find a mentor, the pictures and the profiles of the mentor come up immediately. It's good. We will need to ensure that all mentors have appropriate pictures, and I'll show you what I mean. Mentors should check the visibility box and rewrite the experience to make the first sentence of their profile as meaningful as possible. That's what's going to come up. Here is the first page of the North. Michael, you're the only person who's pictured here. Michael is right here. But these are 6 of the mentors. These are the first 6 mentors who come up when you go to the North Metro Atlanta page. Click on Find a Mentor. And no, it's not. And the names and the faces come out, and the first sentence comes up with your profile, which is why the first sentence must be at the
meaningful as possible. There's a good one here. I can help you define your business plans and goals on how to achieve them, whether it's a concept or an existing. But you don't need to say here, for 25 years I was vice president in charge of. Nobody wants to read that. You were great, but you're not anymore. All this applies to me too.
Expertise.
Yes,
You can see it up there.
When you list expertises, is that the plural of expertise? Expertises. You can list up to 6, but the way the website works at the moment, it selects the top one alphabetically. So everyone comes up as business finance and accounting, business strategy and planning, business strategy and planning, business strategy and planning, business strategy and planning. You have a bit of a problem here. Because if you put down marketing or email marketing, it's not going to come up. So either Stan, you've been pruning them, right?
Yeah, so what I've done is I've gone in to change, I changed them. And when I realized this was what we had, so, I took out business planning and strategy and put in what I happen to know the mentor is their primary skill as close as I could. So I have, manufacturing in some, or we don't have I think it's called IT and website or something like that. I put that in, and boy, you could see the demand for those people went up. So this is because it's close. It's closer. It's still not good, but this was terrible.
Now, these pictures aren't bad. Michael's lost the top of his head. Fred is on the golf course.
So that is something that SCORE resolve.
Yeah.
What it's doing is pulling just the center of
the
format. Right. Because when you look at my actual picture on mine,
it's a beautiful picture.
Yes.
But again, I'm not trying to. Yeah, we can fix that, but I mean, I do urge people to go to their own profiles and see what they look like, especially if your chapter is taking advantage of this opportunity, because we do have some unfortunate situations. Now, I did not have to search very far for these, but these are the pictures that are on the SCORE profiles for a bunch of mentors, and these are all over the place. These are not rare examples. I think most of these came from Los Angeles area, but I don't think there's anyone grown. I mean, I like this one. I particularly like the surfing, but this one is the classic. I think I've seen this first on the wall of a police station. I don't know what happened here. Here we have a kung fu fighter. This guy obviously just bought a car. This lady, I don't know what she's doing. I think she's selling jewelry. But I mean, again, if you were looking for a mentor, are these the people that you would be lining up to support? And I'm really not being critical. I'll show you my own picture in a minute and you can judge. We all need to pay attention to our picture. That is on our website at the moment. Absolutely. These are taken right off the website. And I like this guy is a little shy. There's another guy from the same country as the other one. I like this one playing with his kid on the couch. Now, again, I'm sure these people are good people and they are good mentors. I'm not criticizing their skills, but this is not, I would put it to you, this is not going to get them more clients. Morgan Martin, before she left, posted, the rules of a good profile. Smile, have a third party take your picture. Professional, preferably, head and shoulders or head to waist, portraits, and so on. You can read it here. She put this down here. Vacation attire, not appropriate. Would you put a picture of your family on your resume? No. These things do not belong in your score picture either. And here's her don'ts. Don't crop yourself from the group photo. Don't use a poor quality picture. Don't have more than one person. Don't wear sunglasses. Make sure the lighting is good. The worst mistake of all, of course, she says, is not having a profile. Personally, I think not having a profile is a bit better. So here are some pictures from the North, probably they're not current anymore, the North Metro Atlanta and Atlanta chapters. This is a pretty good picture here. I think this one is a pretty good picture. This is Mark Fromelt, who is a fantastic guy, but I don't think he wants to have a picture taken this close, right? It gets to be a little difficult. This is, I forget his name.
Bernier.
Yeah, Roger Bernier. Here he is in Australia, in case we were wondering. I like this one here.
We have legacy members.
And then, of course, this picture is very telling. This is a nice picture, but it's horribly out of focus. And then, of course, you've got the family picture over here. Roman is enjoying the snow. A couple more people have lost their head. And this lady is an Atlanta chapter member, so you know her. Is that all right? Oh, yeah. Okay. So she's from the Atlanta chapter, but I'm not sure this is her mentor photo. I think this is her professional photo as an artist. All right. So what are examples of good mentor portraits? And these are taken from North Metro Atlanta as well. And I think you'd agree they don't all have to be in the same formality, but I think you'd agree they're all good. But just so you don't think I'm criticizing people, irresponsibly, this was the picture. Very complex one. It's really saying that score mentors the ever-increasing influence of digital marketing, particularly for clients with existing businesses, because these are the clients we'd really like to see more of, right? The ones who've been in business for 2 or 3 years, their business seems to be stuck. It's kind of chugging along. They want to take it to the next level. They want to, how do I grow my business? How do I get beyond this level? And some of these issues could be helpful to them in achieving that objective. And some of these issues can be addressed relatively easily. We're talking about performing triage, right? Just doing the first look at what they're doing before we perhaps recommend them to subject matter experts who can help them do a better job. So I just live by my slogan from Rudyard Kipling. With all this challenge, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, clearly you don't understand the complexities of the situation. So thank you for your time, and I am done. Oh, yes. Questions?
Content, and it was fantastic. There's one statement that I do want to make out because I think it's important. You mentioned the fact that Facebook, show your business human side is very important, and I've heard that also from Facebook experts many times that being kind of clients coming across to their own clients. Having said that, there was a couple of times we comment about the grammatical and spelling errors, and in a way that's contradictory to the human side, and it could be perceived by some clients as not inclusive. And so I just want to bring that to your attention because 2 things. We have clients that are in the ethnic business,
yes,
and when I talk to the search engine and Facebook experts, they say, hey, that it's better to have those mistakes for that business in particular. And also, young people that are in business use language that is not what we would use.
That said, the search engines are work better with like B2B, writing B2B or
Right.
as opposed to business to business. So I think we need to be mindful of that.
I think that's a valid point.
Just be inclusive of the businesses, right? Just assuming that having, perfect language. Now, if you're selling, English textbooks, I agree.
But I would argue that everybody has someone they could show it to. Could you read this through for me? We're not talking about, the works of Shakespeare. We're talking about a page and a half of text.
Yeah.
And at least make sure that there's not words missing. You're not saying the exact opposite of what you meant to say because you missed out the word not. There are a number of things people can do to improve the situation. You're right. There's an old letter that's misspelled here and there. I don't think anyone's going to find tremendous fault with that. It's interesting, if you go on, and I'm not picking on Chinese, if you go on Chinese websites, especially websites that are selling things like raw chemicals and so on, the English is laughable. How does people stay visited? It looks like someone's taken an hour of English and then sits down and writes their website. They seem to survive, so I understand what you're saying. Yes, Michael.
I just wanted to support the on a district or regional basis, getting a team of subject matter experts.
Yes.
That all of us can contact.
Yes.
More narrative.
Yeah, we are talking dragon's teeth here in terms of skill availability. Yes, sir.
You take this presentation on the road?
Well, as soon as my foot recovers and I can get back in, because normally I do it while I'm tap dancing. If you pay the airfare, I'll come over with you.
Just up the road.
Oh, there you go. Okay, thank you. Oh, yes, sir.
Let me ask the complete opposite question. I have a lot of people who don't want to have their pictures public on a website because they think they get clients from all over the country. They would rather just get a client assigned to our chapter and then we assign the.
Then they simply know. Right. In your profile, there's a box that says, "Do you want your profile to be visible on the web or a web search?" And I don't want that because I'm not mentoring at the moment. So I say no. You check that box. If you want your profile to be visible, you have to uncheck that box.
One that says public. That's one you're talking about.
Well, I thought it said if you want your profile to be visible on the internet, I think it said. No?
Oh, that's a good question. Have you reviewed
to be honest with you, I have not done a specific analysis. I think what they do is pretty good. But it's a fairly standard format of post, isn't it? It's a picture, it's an event, or it's a situation or something. I mean, I'm not being critical. I'm just saying that I think they probably are the kind of people who are responsible enough to obey all of this rules. Yeah. So Steve has any comment on that?
I mean, yeah, we're applying best practices, and to your point, applying best practices in a rather vanilla way about it, because you're pulling content from your websites and things like that to post. But if your chapter isn't promoting stuff, they're getting rather mundane, broad items.
The reason I asked, and I think the content is outstanding. They put up really nice stuff. I don't see calls to action. I don't see I don't see unless we get some likes. Facebook is there comments. I don't know.
There's usually a link, isn't there? It may not be necessarily what call to action. Right, mostly. Yeah.
If there's a, I'll take it back and ask, if there's, certainly you can work with our staff, our marketing team on it, or even hyperlocal on doing something perhaps different. The reason we don't do that now is because if we have a call to action, what are we meant? We don't know what to have a call to action on, obviously. I don't either.
Yeah.
So
So,
just sorry, Stan has a comment on that.
so if you're part of Hyper, this year's the strategy for Hyper was to drive people to the website. Last year, it was to drive people, so call to action is the click. And it's to take you, so it used to be the click to take you to the event. And what Hyper decided last year, and I think off of our Facebook page. But you can't, as Barry pointed out earlier, just say, hey, I'm paying them some money and walk away and think what you've got if you do that is you haven't looked at it. So you have to be the auto designer, you have to be the architect, not the builder. You have to be the one that works with them on that strategy, and they've been very responsive and very good. Like, I'm terrible at content. I mean, I have no artistic capability whatsoever, but we drive strategies, all driving people to the website. So again, I pulled it the other day, and it was over 1,600 impressions. That's pretty good. For us. Yeah.
Somebody clicks that, drives to the website.
Well, no, that's just the 1,600 are the ones that are on that Facebook page. We get, I forget, 3,000 or something like that on our website itself. Part of that, though, is remember with the Facebook page, when you get that impression, if you have your partners linked, and your partners, your local chambers who are much more active and have stuff they're posting and pushing. So you get this interaction between things. It should not be static, and you shouldn't have to do the work. You could get your partners by it's organic. The partners get to do the work because they're doing it as part of what they do. So on one post, you might get a post, and we had one from Atlanta Technology Park, which is one of our partners and where we have a place. And they took one of the events that we were teaching there and pushed it out to their Facebook page, and it showed back up on our Facebook page as, boy, SCORE's a great thing, you ought to contact them. And we did nothing except do the static post, but we had gotten the links between the two organizations. So again, you're driving to the website, you're driving other people to do the work for you, not having to do it yourself, and not expecting that Hyper or marketing is going to do. You've got to set the strategy because it's different. Your partner doesn't get it. I mean, the strategy, yeah. I mean, the individual. But you've got to link your Twitter, your Facebook. That's what Barry was pointing out. Twitter, Facebook, and Leo does a great job of it also, and for the other chapters. And that we've seen that in
Well, thank you again.
Well, I want him to know, when you talk about me staying with the Southeast, you're seeing the leadership team, the DDs in the Southeast. We didn't realize that we had a comedian as a part of the team, but my God, you know, fantastic job. But I want to say thank you to all of the district directors. They pulled this particular session together, this whole 2 days that we've been here. And I really appreciate everything they've done because they've done a fantastic job. So give them a round of applause. So we're on the home stretch. We'll be out of here in a few minutes. But I want to talk a little bit about this whole idea of fundraising. I know I have least about 20 chapters in here that did not receive a grant this year. Because I got the phone calls and say, where are my grants? Sorry, we didn't have enough money to fund 275 grants that were submitted. And we funded, 75, Steve, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah. The max point you could get was 80. The minimum point you could get was 0. And we funded all of those particular grants that was 45 and above. So we're thinking about this and saying, okay, in some of our chapters, we need some additional funds. How do we go about doing that? Farther down the road, hopefully, as Steve has said, that we want to be self-sufficient. But it won't happen overnight. It takes time to do that. So we have 3 different locations that has been successful. And so we want to share a little bit of that information. It's not going to be a PowerPoint. We're just going to share with you a little bit. And if you need more information, you can always talk to them about that. So I'm going to go with first, which is really fantastic. That is the Charleston chapter received $75,000 from SunTrust for a 3-year project. And Mary Butler, would you stand and tell us a little bit about that?
Great. I'm going to correct Kathy. We did receive $75,000, but it was for a 2-year project. The background on it is Charleston, South Carolina, has got the 4th largest military base in the United States. We've got 35,000 active members still there and 65,000 retired. The chapter 5 years ago took it upon themselves to have a specific program for veterans who are starting a business. And to raise the money, the chapter further undertook a golf tournament annually, put it on by the volunteers to raise the money to give back into the community in the form of grants. They gave out $10,000 annually. It was pretty well publicized and pretty well communicated through PR, media, journals, the newspaper, that sort of thing. But it was also personally communicated to various aspects of the community, such as the chambers, the mayors, the business development managers, the banks, major corporations, anybody we could go to just to say to them, we want to make you aware of what we're doing in the community. If you'd like to sponsor, that would be great. Our sponsorships ranged from $135 on up to $1,000. So it was modest amount of sponsorships. But what happened as a result of those 5 years of doing that golf event and putting that back out in the community was one particular banker, the vice president of banking at SunTrust in the community, took note, and he knew that his SunTrust Foundation annually gave out 36 awards nationwide. And he put our name in to his foundation on our behalf, and we were awarded $75,000. So there was no grant writing, there was no paperwork that we had to fill out. And the best part of it is, although it's restricted to the program, we can use it for operations. So if we have people involved in doing that program and they're paid staff, or we've got to pay for marketing or any of that, we can use those dollars. The only real request they have is annually to send them a report on the impact. Though that was all of the conditions that were associated with it. So I think the takeaway is look at those philanthropic organizations. Make sure you're getting the word out on your needs and the programs that you're running, and build the relationships, because this came completely out of the blue. Any questions? Great, thanks.
Rick, will come up and talk about the open.
I'll talk in here so you'll find. So mentioned here about how a local banker took notice of what was going on in their community with their school chapter. In the national case, I love that bank. I was working for Fifth Third Bank, and many of you may be aware of the bank, the Community Reinvestment Act, Community Reinvestment Act. This is a rating issued by the Federal Reserve of every financial institution based on how well they serve the credit needs of their community through advocacy, education, direct funding, and development. And certainly, one of those great ways that Fifth Third encouraged us to get the community was by actually volunteering. And being the vice president of the bank, of course, that was my salary. So I had a team I was working, and I used my development time to go out in the store and meet new people and, build relationships and do all kinds of things on behalf of the bank. And in turn, over the last, let's say 6 years, Fifth Third is donating about $45,000 to the national chapter in the form of recurring grants of $5,000 plus supplemental grants for their projects vehicles. So CRA is the one thing I want to talk to you about regarding banks specifically. The other thing I want to discuss with you real quick is Versaic. Versaic.com. That's VERSAIC. There are other systems out there like Versaic, but if I'm a big company, I'm going to use Dell Computers as an example. So Dell has a large manufacturing center in Nashville. Dell has contracted with Versaic to handle their grant giving and all their community development campaigns. So if I go to dell.versaic.com, that is where I would go to request a sponsorship from Dell Computer. There are about 50 Fortune 500 companies who also contract with Versaic to receive these grant requests. So perhaps you have a large company in your area that may also be with Versaic, that's how they handle that, or they may use a competing platform. But many of these groups now, they don't make these decisions locally anymore. A lot of times it has to go before a national board. Fifth Third is that way. They had to go up to Cincinnati to be a decision, but that was the portal we used to put in our requests. So again, no, the Community Reinvestment Act, great tool to work with your banks, and Versaic, and I wish I knew some Versaic competitors, I really don't. I became acquainted with Versaic because that's what Fifth Third used. And I learned that several firms used it. Yes, sir. The other one I mentioned, cyber grants. Okay, so cyber grants is another one. But look for those types of giving request management portals. You might be having you may have companies that may be utilizing those. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Rick. There's a whole chapter in that has been received some funds on a yearly basis. And they receive so much funds because of one of your volunteers. Actually, the DD doesn't have to be giving money. And so, I was going to have a talk to you about how you be able to volunteers to generate funds, as well as when you're recruiting, but you may want to target certain people to come into your organization.
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, this is a really interesting program. And probably many of you in here work for one of the companies that offer a volunteer program to retirees and current employees. They also call it Dollars for Doers. That's the most common name, but it goes by either name. So as we get into this, if you call your HR department where you used to work, they will know both those terms. So what is Dollars for Doers? Dollars for Doers program can be defined as a corporate employee giving program in which a company provides grants to nonprofit agencies where employees and retirees volunteer on a regular basis. Our chapter in Anniston really does not qualify to be a chapter. We're one of those 50 that we're looking at, but we have one volunteer that retired from Exxon. Exxon's an excellent corporate partner. For every hour that Tom donates as a mentor, we are paid $25.
up to a maximum of $6,000 a year. So our little chapter makes $6,000 just because we have a retired Exxon executive that mentors for us. I would expect they would, yeah. So if you have, and we're going to show you some of the companies, most of the Fortune 500 companies offer this program, but it's a well-kept secret. They don't just make it very, very public. So it allows the employee to donate his or her time to an organization that they value, and the company acknowledges its employees' dedication by donating cash to the same cause, therefore allowing the employee to give twice. Now, why do they do these programs? One, because it improves the company's public image. Companies do like to give money away. They do like to recognize their employees for doing charitable works, and they like to get recognition for it. More than 50% of millennials are influenced to accept a job based on a company's involvement with philanthropic engagement programs. You can go to charities.org and see a lot of information about this program. It gives corporations a chance to give back, which is one of the key words that is in the vocabulary of so many companies and younger folks these days. Oh, I've got to give back. So skills-based volunteers are 142% more likely to gain job-related skills than good old-fashioned regular volunteers. Currently, 45% of the Fortune 500 companies offer these volunteer grant programs. Here's just a sample of the companies that you might have worked for or know people that work for that will pay you to let them volunteer with your chapter. Golf tournament. Kohl's is an excellent partner for golf tournaments. Anytime you have a golf tournament, you can go to your local Kohl's department store and say, we're having a golf tournament. We'd like, 4 of your people to come play. Kohl's will pay the entrance fee. You don't have to submit any requests. If they have golfers in their store, which most of the time they do, Kohl's will pay the entrance fee. So make sure it's real high for Kohl's. Time Warner, Walmart, Aetna, ExxonMobil, Verizon, AMD, Westar. The list is going to get very, very long here, and you just got a handout of the companies that are participating. ExxonMobil, for example, $500 for every 20 hours of volunteer work to a maximum of 2,000. Aetna, $300 for every 20 hours of volunteer work. Redbox, Otterbox, Coinstar, they pay $15 an hour to their employees to volunteer. They pay it to you, not to the volunteer. Verizon, 50 hours, and they pay $750 every 50 hours to a max of $1,500 a year. ConocoPhillips, Microsoft, Dell, Real Networks, Time Warner, Allstate Insurance. So how should you use these programs? One, seek mentors from those companies. You have a list now, so when you're out looking for people to come in as mentors, would you stop? Thank you. You might want to go to your Kiwanis Club or your whatever organization you're a part of and say, hey, didn't you used to work for Exxon? Well, yeah. Well, how would you like to come learn about SCORE? I've got an interesting proposition for you. Well, yes, you want a mentor, but you also know Exxon's going to pay you a lot of money to let them work for you. Find subject matter experts. It's the same thing. You can go to many of these companies and just recruit a person that can speak and lead on one particular topic. Microsoft, Google, Yahoo, they all have these programs available. They will even send people in to your area if they're not there, and they will pay you to let their people come speak. Find workshop experts, short-term volunteers, same situation. A lot of these companies will have much younger people than what we are that do know social media, that do their email campaigns, that do their Twitter feed and all these things. So they might be willing to provide that person as a resource person and again, pay you $10, $15 an hour for their work. So what can you do to help the sponsoring business? Promote the program to businesses that offer the benefit to their employees. To publicize the volunteer work provided to your chapter. Great post on Facebook. A thank you to Exxon who provided so many volunteers. Thanks to Kohl's who played in our golf tournament. Thanks to Walmart for their community grant. Those type things are great, and that's what these big companies look for. Believe it or not, a lot of money goes unused. In my little town in Anniston, we have 3 Walmarts. And they have to spend a certain percentage of their gross sales on community events. And like some of our chapters never spend their money, they never spend all their money because nobody asks. So please go ask. They have to give it away. They just have to. Engage these companies to sponsor or provide volunteers and speakers at workshops, roundtables, and other programs. A lot of these businesses in your communities, whether they're a great big business like a oil petroleum company or a department store, Target is a good one, Office Max, several of the guys are doing some things with Office Max. They will provide you speakers for your roundtable. They will send in people, and again, may only be $15 or $20 for a 1-hour workshop, but that's, as we have to take on more and more of the financial responsibility for our chapters, all that's going to help us. And that is the end.
This is our genes, John. What's wrong with our genes? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's Amazon Smile, for what if you don't know about it, Amazon will give a fraction of a percent, basically, of whatever you spend on Amazon to your nonprofit of choice, charity of choice. Score is available for that. I don't remember what the rate is, Mary, maybe it's fractions of a penny on a dollar. I want to say that we collectively made like $5. But most people aren't aware of it. So in order to get it, you have to go into your Amazon account, you have to set up Score as the place. You have to then go to smile.amazon.com to shop versus Amazon.com. There are all these intricacies. It's an opportunity for us. I think we put it in a newsletter recently, and we saw a little bit of uptake. I cannot tell you the specifics. I know it's not like earth-shattering money in the organization at this point, but I can find out, more details on it.
Yes.
Yeah, we just recently got this thing called Grant Station.
Mm-hmm.
It's a exhaustive resource about grants all over the country. It's normally $699 a year, but through TechSoup, we get a lot of discounts for it. It was only $99. So it's a great resource. That might be something for you.
Yeah, we have a volunteer, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but Ms. Hodge. Yes, Sam. She is with the Atlanta chapter, and she is an expert in grant writing. So what I'm going to ask EDs to do is to talk about how we may want to approach this. Because I really think, we talked about whether should we do some grant writing at the chapter level or at the district level. And I think we maybe be more focusing on doing something either at the district or the regional level and having some key people from the different districts to work with her and looking for ways that maybe we can improve. Yes, Steve?
I was just gonna say, those community foundations, a lot of times, the Akron, Ohio chapter raises on average about $6,000 a year from community family foundations that are around Akron, the night foundations, the newspapers, and that sort of stuff that still exists. They're looking to give away money. Nationally, we don't know where these foundations are. A lot of times you might be able to research them locally. I will ask this one thing, and that I just stood up because, well, the last thing that we want to do is to have all 3 chapters in and around Atlanta going to the same foundation and applying separately.
No.
We actually saw that in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where we had 3 chapters. Within a span of 3 weeks, 3 different chapters went to the same Wells Fargo banker and asked for money. And needless to say, he thought we were idiots. So we can coordinate a bit better. We're now going to Minneapolis, St. Paul, asking for 1 grant, splitting it among the 3 chapters. And they're actually funding us now where they didn't before. Yeah. So I think we can, think about this strategically, not just tactically for your chapter.
Thank you, Steve. Yes.
Let's go with the Pasco chapter with the
Who?
We always had money. Pasco County Economic Development Council, and they have what they call any Pasco, any fact, increase business and employment in Pasco County, becoming the suburb of Tampa. So we formulated a partnership with them because our money from various drive-up batteries, and everybody's looking for money. So what we do is we share our deliverables with them by a memorandum of understanding, which is workshops, clients, and roundtables. And this is an ongoing program. It's a 30-year program. We get $15,500 a year based upon the delivery. We personally do that quarterly result. They report that to the county commissioners. They're all happy with how we increase business. They said that's what we want to do. This is not normal. That's what we do. So that may be something for everybody to look at. What do the county commissioners do? What do you want to develop business with the county? That's what we do. And that's what we've done.
Fantastic. Excellent. Any other thoughts, suggestions regarding fundraising? Okay, if not, it's time for our panel discussion. But before I do that, there are 2 things that are happening in and one map. Would you kind of talk a little bit about what you've been doing to influence?
Yeah, can you hear me? Matt, I'm Bill Georgia chapter, basically making more models. I think you're probably in the situation that several columns and it seems like they all have an entrepreneurial program. And so you retailers start the chapter, you have the networking process. So we have a good relationship with the university. We have commercial university, they have commercial basis. So they know about SCORE, but we get these calls. They have an intern who's really excited about entrepreneurship, wants to have an internship in a small business for a semester. And we've been trying to recalibrate that because most of our small businesses don't have time to deal with a junior in college who's not even a business. They don't have time to deal with that. And so what we've worked with them on is more of a structure around more project-based things that are typically part-time. For example, I had an intern, and we use some interns as well. But we just recently had a Mercer intern who said, hey, I want to been around since 2016. We're still in startup. One will still work with us. So we structured a program for this intern around 4 specific objectives. The point is, we had to set up it was a part-time thing, not a full-time day thing. We don't have people in the office all the time, so we couldn't have an intern every day. So it was part-time, and it was very project deliverable things. So one of his main outlets was creating a share site, a Google Drive site for our chapter that had commonly resources, toolkits for a minute, like, what do you need to know about starting a business and know it's working? So it's kind of the template to me was interns can be very valuable. You have to redirect them from thinking they can put an intern full-time, an intern full-time, to a small business. We have successfully just recently structured for a client. They needed a social media marketing program. We had a marketing dude that actually worked with them and did on a part-time, unpaid basis, put together a social media marketing program. So I think there are good ways we can use interns. We just haven't crafted perfectly. Some of the bigger chapters have people in the office all the time. We might be able to use a full-time intern. But in our case, it's much more effective. Very focused, part-time, unpaid, very focused on specific clients.
Thank you. And I heard that Akins, Greater Akins, has also just hired that's going to focus on social media. Right. Okay. I have a pamphlet here in front of me, and Stan, you're from Philly. Dennis, Stan, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Then you
So Kathy was gracious to give me 15 minutes. How much time did you give me? Kathy gave me 10 minutes, and I really appreciate it. Kathy gave me 4.5 minutes to talk about the exit strategy initiative that we're doing. Negotiation time. Well, everybody's got one of these. I bought one for everybody. What we realized was that SCORE is really, really good at helping businesses get started, and we're really, really good at helping businesses grow. What we're not really good at is helping them exit. In fact, we hardly even discuss it. And if you do, companies go, well, what's that? Well, you ask, are you thinking of retiring someday? Do you think you're going to be in this business forever? What is forever? Still a time frame. So what we did is come up with an exit strategy concept. We had about a dozen mentors working on this for a couple of years. We have 17 pages of instructions on how to fill out this one page that's going around to you now. It's an exit strategy canvas. We're playing off of the business model canvas name to that extent. And on one side, it tells you, shows an example of filling out the canvas. And the other side is the blank side for you to fill it out with your clients, going through those 17 pages. And over time, this will fill out more and more. When they're just starting their business, they may not have any idea other than that, well, maybe I'd like to get out in 30 or 40 years. Maybe I'd like to have a couple $1 million. And maybe I'd like to give to my kids. Who knows? They really don't know. So what our team does is help clients flesh out what they want to do. What we figured out is we pair an exit strategist, of which there are 9 in our chapter, and these 9 are educated every other week with a professional. So most of us have M&A experience. We've sold companies, we've bought companies. We're in the financial sector, former business brokers on our team, and so we have experience in buying and selling companies. So we bring in speakers in our little 9-person group, attorneys, business brokers, CPAs, a banker who's really helpful. And what we do is we ask them, what should we tell our clients? What do they need to know? How does the SBA 7 program work? What about the 453 or 1131? 1031. When they want to sell their business. What about giving it to their selling to their kids? But what we found out is
We've written 16 articles that I've written in the Herald Tribune about exiting your company. So we include that into our package of information that we give out. What the idea is, we don't really sell the company. We help them understand what the process is all about. And the first Dog and Pony Show, we have a slide point presentation. We had 40 people in the room, and we received 12 signups on the spot. We've gotten financials from most of those 12 people. The companies range in size from, say, 500,000 to 2.5 million. These are real businesses. So this is helping us get our in-business client count up very nicely. The other thing we've done to get the in-business client up is CEO roundtables. We started 3 new ones, and they're good candidates for this. The great thing about it, which we didn't realize at the time, is that even if a client is thinking of getting out 10 years, 5 years, 2 years from now, we still can help them improve the value of their business so that they get more money when they exit. So this has opened up an entire new way to get in-business clients. Some of our mentors on our team said this is the absolute best thing we've ever come up with in the 5 or 10 years that they've been mentors. That's about it. Thank you, Kathy. Okay, I left out the TV show. So in addition to the canvas, in addition to our brochure, which is fairly comprehensive, we have a TV show called Score Business TV, and the first 4 episodes are on exiting your company. So the first one we already did it's called Cashing In. The second one is being done this Thursday in the morning, and that'll be on evaluation. Then we have 2 more that will be part of the series. And we have a great IT guy that's really, really good at understanding keywords and SEO and how to get the word out. How do you access it?
Yeah.
The best bet would be to email me. So I don't know if everybody's interested or not. But how many of you are interested? Nobody. Okay, decent amount. Well, they should be interested. By the way, yeah, I didn't say my name is Dennis Zinko. I guess you said it. You called me. What'd you call me? Stan. Yeah. We were Chapter of the Year in 2017. 5-time platinum chapter. We're a diamond chapter. I know. We did. Yeah. Just had to throw that in. Mike Lewis.
And that is, are we stressing inclusion extremely hard? And how do we not eliminate the white males who have been in our country for these past 55? Okay. Now, so I'm telling you that you have heard you. So, as far as since we're focused on how do we not alienate white males? And for me, I guess, and so you don't have to help me open up the window for me and help me understand this, because it seems to me is that we have space. It's not like we have a little box that's 8 by 9 or 10 by 12 or whatever size box it is. The box can be as wide as you want it to be. So if that's the case, help me understand if we talk about inclusion, because I really want to understand that would alienate some of our white males.
Two things. One, it's inclusion, not replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, either all truly believe ourselves that it enriches us,
mm-hmm.
or we don't. And if we are fearful of inclusionary and of having people of color, people of different sexual orientation, people of different age, that is a very personal problem that goes well beyond the score issue. And I mean, I hope most people in sport, I believe most people in sport, see it as an enriching environment, not a replacing environment.
In that inclusion and diversity, I include at our chapter level, I include people that are working because they have different priorities, and that's not. Historically, we've had all retired individuals, so it's, well, this is the way we've served them for years and it's worked. So it's more than just, you know, male versus female. It is also the newer people that can't work and get those have of that much. And I run up against that every once in a while. Well, they can't work. You explain you have to work as hard, right? No, I agree. We're going to figure out how to do that. But that is also another part of the inclusion process.
I just say, you know, hearing the message that the consulting last year and trying to deliver an abbreviated version of that to our chapter. One thing we learned just went well along this path in terms of what you're describing, Kathy. It's not the message. You know, everybody hears the message. It's not necessarily how it's being said, it's how it's being received. And a lot of our, I would say, some of our tenured volunteers, when they hear these diversity messages, are taking this very personally, as if we're speaking to you saying, this is what you are not. And maybe they are not, but they're hearing it and they are feeling very attacked in this messaging, even though that's not at all the purpose of the messaging. We all know that. It's just, let's be open, let's be aware, let's be sensitive to other people. They're taking it as, you're telling me I'm not, you're telling me I'm bigoted and all these other things. That's not what we're saying. We're saying, let's just make it a point to be open and be inviting.
But those people, whoever they may be, because it doesn't have to be a white male, it can be a black male, it can be, you know, a female, you know, who thinks that you can't be working and still be a volunteer. How do we embrace them to ensure that they understand that they are just as important as these other people we're bringing into the mix? I got two hands here. Yeah.
The majority of my chapter is over 70 white male. And I've been there for 10 years. I think I've been there for, I'm not sure, but now I'm chapter chair, and I got a phone call. I talked to my DD about it. I specifically got a phone call from one of my executive committee warning me about checking up our organization and what that would do.
Guys, come on, this is important. Yeah.
Warning me about checking up our organization and what that would do to our existing members, and that there may be a mass walkout. And so I think this is not about the ability of women to be mentors. I think that you had a really good point that these existing mentors that have been around forever are feeling threatened in some way. And I need to figure out how to deal with that to make them feel like they're just as important and that we need to be diverse. But how much, because I don't need a mass walkout, it's small enough as it is. You know what I mean? We're trying to figure out a balance here of my 70 plus people, you know, and then bringing in the new folks.
Okay, I like.
That's much not heard that.
I think there's also another way to look at it. And I think one of the ways of even opening the whole discussion of diversity and inclusion is maybe to talk about unconscious biases. And the point is, every one of us, male and female, young and old, working and not working, has a whole collection of unconscious biases that we're not aware of. I mean, obviously by its own definition. And so, I mean, I've done an exercise in our chapter about unconscious biases and just asked everybody to close their eyes. And I would list a whole bunch of categories. And it might have been lawyer, judge, nurse, doctor, felon. And what image comes to your mind when we talk about these? And if you list about 20 or 30 things, and every man and woman, regardless of age, color, gender, or anything, a picture of a person when I name something comes to their mind.
And all we're trying to point out is that everybody has unconscious biases. This isn't necessarily about a chapter, it's about how we deal with our clients, right? So we're not, I just think that once we recognize that we all have unconscious biases, that when we realize those, we need to try and be able to hold back and try and include, not discard those people because of those unconscious biases. That it has nothing to do with whether you're a man or a woman or anything else. It has to do with the fact that throughout our life, we have developed these biases. And we're not going to get rid of them probably, but if we're aware of them, whoever you are, that we then start to try and take that into account when we form our opinions, when we listen, and when we include or, you know, talk to people. And so it's not about men or women.
Well, somebody said something yesterday that really struck a chord with me, which is we're all different, but we're all working toward the same goal, which I think is great to keep in mind. If I had a situation like that with a volunteer who was having a problem with diversity and inclusion, the first question I would ask would be, how is this devaluing what you think SCORE is to you? We're not giving new people 50% off on something. You know, this is not a you know, I paid $20 for my subscription. You're offering it 10 for 10. This makes mine something worth less. Not how it works. But I mean, that's just how I looked at it. Was ask them how it devalues SCORE.
We don't get to everyone. I'll go right here.
Speaking as an older white male, I think the focus has to be on in addition to, not instead of. And there are some, you know, really interesting phrases, you know, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. Somebody came up with one that I've adopted now, and it's very simple. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And have to reach out to the people who would have this unconscious bias. They probably know they have the unconscious bias. The person who wrote that, you know, check out the chapter memo, knows that, I'm guessing it's a he, has this bias. Well, I think that's a conscious bias on that part of that person. It's in addition to, not instead of. A lot of people feel threatened because they think they go right to instead of.
What do you think our message has been that is instead of, in addition? That's what to anyone.
I'm taking it that way. It's not enough anymore.
We're communicating to them that they're not enough. Right.
Like some of these guys, I remember sitting there in their chair, I kept thinking, wow, I'm not good enough. Why do I not good enough? I understand we're going to grow this down. That's our presentation for the whole.
Okay.
Are valuing this foundation. I don't think they're valuing them enough. I think they're almost disregarding it to the point of making it so diverse that I think you're dismissing the contribution at that point. That's just me observing. But forget my phone call, forget all that nonsense, and forget all that stuff. That's what I'm hearing on every conference.
But that's important. That's important. Yeah, I'm not going. I promise you, we're going to deal with it.
I think the problem from national is that the pendulum has swung too far. I do not denigrate inclusion and diversity, but it's a lot of the white male population of SCORE sees that as a replacement for them. And there has to be someone who reaches out and says, no, guys, it's not. We're not being replaced. We're being added to, were being increased, improved, etc.
Steve, can you, if you don't mind, please?
All right, well,
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I just have a real quick, so, you know, I understand. Can you, what's a lot? Because, I mean, I kind of take a little bit of perspective. When you say a lot, you know, I see one comment.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna put you and Steve in the same box. Okay, because I want to hear it out. I'm not devaluing what you're saying, but I want to hear this out, okay? Because I think it's important for people to have this discussion, okay? Yeah.
I think it also has to do with resistance to change. Time we live in, and the older the times we say, I'm too old to change. I hear this quite a bit. What I personally think is that you reach your expiration date with that, because you have to change. You have to. Everybody reaches the expiration date. I try to push mine up at the same way that I go to up. That would be my goal, but maybe not everybody. So change and having to learn and operating, you know, things like social media. Well, they don't do social media. They don't do a lot of things that are necessary to continue to be effective. So yes, they are less effective today in many cases. What we do in our chapter, we said, okay, well, you don't have to mentor if that's not what you want. We have all these other jobs that you can do, where you don't have to have, you know, have to talk to a millennial that you don't feel comfortable.
Oh, here, and here.
I'm an observer, and yesterday I noticed about I believe it was the National Committee, when you said there were a few men now on the steering committee. I noticed men in the audience moved to face the speaker in that moment because it resonated with, hey, you're including us. The women, even though the discussion had been about women, immediately there were people who threw in their chairs and faced the speaker because what she said resonated. And so I'm seeing a very important, planning things, whether it's a woman activity or not, you know, everybody must be included.
Maybe I think the two quick thoughts. One is some people are autonomous. There are other tiers. I felt this, not necessarily for other places where I felt devalued. Oh, we got hard work. Already. So your contributions are not very valuable because we got there. I think there's a huge issue around perceived evaluation. That what I doing now is not valuable. We were one of our best mentors, Al, in the 70s. He's great. He's very open. So I think part of our collective job is to make sure those people who are in that role, who are adding value and trying to embrace all this, feel like they're being appreciated.
So when we say that we're getting 60% more female clients in, okay, and we want more female volunteers, what they're hearing is that
I'm much like people.
Of mentoring those people, okay? All right. Let me see, yeah.
Well, no, Kathy, I was going to expand on that. That's one of the things that breaks that mentality is you start out with clients matter, and you have to start out with not so much that it's going to be the same color, the same gender in the mentoring process, but you've got to put all that stuff. And if you start with that and you talk about that as diversity, then it doesn't have to be a long conversation when you're dealing with your volunteers about what we're trying to do to be diversified. It's the community we live in that we're dealing with that community and putting aside all unconscious bias and dealing with it one-on-one or within our workshop. And you put that aside. And once you put that aside, then it's fairly easy to be in a meeting with a lot of diverse or looking people and what we used to look like before. And we found that was the success in building the relationships between different genders, different colors, different racial makeups within our staff. And I think that's where we've been successful. we talked about that a little bit yesterday, that all of a sudden our diversity has become completely different because we've been welcoming to a variety of different people in our workshops. And how can we be non-inclusive one way, but then try to talk about inclusivity the other way? And I think that's where parts of it.
Okay. Dale, then Michael.
What I have heard, and it goes back to the messaging, if you were to look at all the videos that were shown yesterday, and all the videos on SCORE's website, you do not see people over the age of 50 in these inclusion videos. And it sends the message that, no, we're inclusive to a point, but no, we're not going to include the retiree. We're not going to include the older man or woman that's still working at 60. So I think that the concept is great. I have no problem with that. I just don't think our whoever the ad team is that puts this together just didn't realize, hey, we're trying to be inclusive, but we left out a whole group of people. We need to show that yes, it's open to older people. We're still recruiting older people, but we're recruiting millennials and Xers and women and minorities and language groups and all these other things. So if we're going to be inclusive, please show some older folks in those groups.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah, real quick. Same ballpark. You know, we talk about diversity and inclusivity in the same breath, but they're different. Right? Diversity is a really important thing. And when I think about inclusivity, I think of a more general mutual respect, everybody feeling valued, everybody participating, with everybody having their role that they think is important, that's fulfilling, enjoyable. You know, all the stuff about diversity is super, super important. And I think that we're at that point. But I think that it's important to look at the higher picture of what inclusivity means, which goes beyond diversity. So I think it's a different
Okay.
So first of all, I think that we all just need to apologize because sometimes words do hurt how we hear them, and it's not meant that way. But then I also want to say to you all, think of the ones that are having the uneasy feeling. Think of that uneasy feeling of the feeling that others have also, like me, not being accepted. I'm a tall African American female. I have a doctorate degree, and that doesn't get me in all doors. And what stops me from getting in the doors is this. I think I'm beautiful, but that doesn't get me in the doors. So the first thing is self-awareness. A lot of us have unconscious biases, and you don't really feel like you got it, but you do have it. I can't tell you how many times I have even gotten some different feelings from people amongst the group here. And I know you didn't mean it, but you said those things. And I didn't take it serious, but some people do take it serious. So we got to be mindful of that. But I think that we're going to have to really stress that inclusivity. Not that diversity is good, but we want to include everyone. Keep everyone because the mixture really works. You can't have all people working full time. You got to have the retired group helping because they're the glue that helps. They can be there. So, but we just got to know that, okay, you're feeling uneasy because there's change going on. The change really makes things work. The change is inevitable. And so just know that we all apologize for the feelings that you're feeling, but it's not meant that way. It's just to feel like there's a mixture. It's not just salad with lettuce. You got some radishes and you got some jalapeno peppers.
One thing about this is, and the reason I asked Steve or G to not jump in at this point, is I think in your meetings, you have to feel comfortable with this discussion. And there's nothing wrong with this discussion. If you're having this discussion, then you're trying to address the issues or concerns that the volunteers have. And I know this discussion is uncomfortable. But if we don't have the discussion, you can never fix the problem. Because what it does is it gets swept up under the rug And eventually it's gonna be so much dust under there, and you're gonna have this big hump, you know, and you fall over and hurt yourself. So, but let me come back to you. Okay.
I got in the middle of this.
Well, I don't know. I need to put you in the box with RG.
Well,
And Steve.
Show this organization, the ladies who provide this organization, or whatever person. And I think if we can regroup from that and really move to inclusion. But most white males came to me to direct and complain. And so we did it, we can fix it, there is damage that has occurred.
But I think that the committee is important here because when people have to be told to do certain things, if it was going to happen just by us doing it, a lot of stuff don't happen. When people take one diversity inclusive meeting for their organization, say, you got to check that off. Diversity and inclusion is every day. It's not one meeting checking the box.
Okay, I got to get some other folks who hasn't talked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the old white guys, been here a long time. I don't want to be part of SCORE if we do not represent society. This is a societal problem. And we need to look like the society. We need to, at some point, now it started out different. I don't care anymore. You know, as a society, we have to come to grips with, if we're going to serve that, we need to look like it. And that's going to be uncomfortable for some people. I mean, I can't change that. And I'm not going to deal as a chapter chair or co-chair in ADD. I'll discuss it a little bit, but I'm uncomfortable with it because I hope by now in this country, we've come far enough so that we recognize that any organization, particularly a nonprofit, that seeks to help the country, that we don't recognize that this country is made up of black and brown and transgender and just, you know, this is uncomfortable for me.
Just an observation relating to age. I think that part of the issue that I hear is not necessarily related directly to age, but how long somebody has been in school. The reason I say that is, well, Stan has been there a long time and he doesn't have that issue. I've been there a small length of time, and I agree with exactly what he said. But I think there's a lot of what the negativity about not accepting this, not necessarily age, but how long those people have been around under a different culture.
Okay.
There's something to be said to it to me.
Mayor?
Part of it was how it's did. And I think that's that when you look at inclusion, diversity is under inclusion. And you've got to look at more than just age and race. You've got to look at the whole demographics of what person includes. It includes your talent, it includes your skills, it includes everything. And I think if we go back to saying we need to be an inclusive society, because that is what we need, and we have to be in order to be effective. And yeah, maybe, sometimes people do. And I will be honest, because I've got some clients that will say, I don't want to be unified by black. I want to find white. You've got to also, and I want them to be old. I don't want them to be You've got to be aware of that too. And you've got to be aware of that. How would you want, is this meant or match or not? And I tell my clients that if it's not a match, let us know. And we'll try to match someone who fits with you, black community. But we've got to look at our community. And when we look at diversity and inclusion, include members in your group that look like your local community demographic.
All right, do I have someone else over here? Okay.
Sam said it very well. There was one question on history. There's one question in there that was through Jen. Because they were talking, because all of the questions refer to follow-up question asked was, well, were we measured by a woman or a man? And then they were asked, did it make a difference that you were measured by a man versus women? The answer was no. So right there, it proved how valuable everybody was. The valuable gem got low, is probably one. But to me, what that means is back to perception. People coming to us is still, as preferred here, we have to match the demographics. If we do not, that will scare some of that low-hanging fruit, as referred to this morning, away, because we don't look like them. There's sometimes there's a comfort level. But that, to me, that little gem in that report told me what I needed to know. Because, yeah, I'm going after women this year just because we don't look like who we're serving. But that point is one that I'm going to be repeating because my store members are going to be in that group that way. And I want them to know they're still valued.
No, and I'm sorry, but sometimes you do things because right is right. And representing society and looking like society is right, whether we get more clients or don't get more clients. It's a personal thing, and it's my soapbox, but you either believe it's the right thing to do to be inclusive, or you're an organization that I believe is on the wrong side of history.
I don't think anyone is opposed to having diversity and having their mentors, look more like society. And even my organization, even the man who had this conversation with me, is not opposed to that. It's just everything we do that score is in your face, inclusion. And so I just find it interesting that the white males must be alienated. They have to be.
Well, could you answer RG?
Here's what I
Could you answer RG's question too?
Well, here's the question I was asking in my paper. We've got a conference with 800 women leadership. Now, we're not putting it on. We're just part of it. We're doing breakout sessions. One of my mentors looked at me and said, well, how do I give a workshop to 100 women up on marketing? And I looked at him and I said, because he's over 70, right? When you think about it, sorry, I'm a stereotype here, but in this age group, there were no women executives, right? All these folks have retired, and that was the culture at the time, right? So now these women are coming in, and they're having a hard time fathoming that they have the same experience that they do, the same knowledge base that they do. And so I looked at them and I said, you know what? Marketing's marketing. I don't care if you're white, black, young, old, big, small, it doesn't matter. Marketing's marketing. Do what you normally do. And he said, oh. And it was just that simple, right? But what really is in your face about it? It just seems too much.
Okay, can you answer RG questions? RG, you're not still mad at me, huh?
No,
So what was that question?
So you know what is right.
Right.
We know what we want to do into an organization. Meet the mission. We know what we're going to need to do. So we just need to continue doing it. But when we say that a lot of us feel this way, and I don't think a lot of us really do feel it. I don't see it, and I don't feel it. I think we're going in the right direction.
Okay.
We're not not going to do it overnight.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is just something that we just need to continue.
Well, let me ask a question. How many of you think we should push forward on? Should not. Okay, so everyone in agreement, we need to move forward. The question is, how do we go? And Steve is over there jumping up and down.
The observation, look around this room. This is one of the most diverse store rooms, which is telling us something. Working. Number one, it's working. We have more female leaders. That being said, majority of the room is still male and white. We know that. We just know that's what it is. I think we're making progress. I just want to point out that this is a rather diverse room considering school. There is Pat hit on something that is brilliant. And I said this in California the other day, and it kind of But yeah, I mentioned yesterday, we're an effective organization. We've been an effective organization. There is nothing about being white or male or black or female or young or old that takes away from our currently being an effective organization. A white man can serve a black woman, a black woman can serve a white man, and we will do it well. What we are being told consistently by the people that aren't seeking out, because they're bringing unconscious bias to with them, is that they want to believe that we will. And so to the point of why are we talking about this? Why are we, majority of our clients are women, majority of businesses being started and jobs being created are in minority-owned businesses. And there is when you look at the mission, there's even a small percentage of that largest growing group that looks at the store and says, I don't think I can get good service because they don't look enough like me. That's quite honestly enough from a mission standpoint. But I think that to the point about are we devaluing, white men at the foundation does, because what we have is very important, it's very effective, and we need to go better.
I'm gonna take 2 more questions or comments and then I'm gonna wrap it up.
You should start white males are happy with what they're doing. I agree with Archie, it's probably not fun. The message that was given from the podium in Jackson was, I heard this from lots of white men, is I'm not valued anymore because you called me an old white man. It was the messaging that's got them upset. That's my experience. They're not upset with the mission at all. They understand the mission the minute you say to them, who'd you mentor last? What was the last client that you talked to?
That message came from Ken Yance. And I'm going to point out that there's a real obvious thing here. This is new for all of sport, including me. This is, and the reason we're doing this, and the reason that inclusion is in our faces, and I'm the one pushing it out quite a bit, is because for 20, if not 50 years, diversity was a tagline we didn't do anything about. So we are talking about it now. We will continue to talk about it. And it's a learning experience for us, and Ken in particular, because he's been around for 25 years. This is not the probably not the most comfortable thing for Ken. Let's just be real. And so we're all learning.
Yeah, Joy.
But my thinking here, listening to everything, you turn anybody away who want to participate on the diversity board then? Okay, I think so. So if anybody was really overly considered or passionate about it, they stepped up and volunteered, correct?
Oh, you talking about as far as the women's committee? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So
yeah, it's open. Mm-hmm.
So it's open.
Yeah. I said I was going to take 2 more questions, but I got 2 people with their hands. Let's keep going up here and then. Okay.
Actually, we got a question for you here. So this has been an ongoing issue that we've addressed. First, I reached out to other companies to see how they done. The reason I asked that before 30 years ago, I think those biases still exist. We've done a very good job of doing that. Primary thing that came to us was mission first. I didn't care what the person looked like in that box on face. I just wanted to know if he could shoot down range. Well, if you got it automatic. And the government and private sector had in common was mission first. So we had a nickname in the store called the United Nations because we wanted to know how we could market that product to everybody. Yeah. All the other biases kind of took a secondary stand. It was mission. And I heard a lot about messaging. So everyone's thought, I don't think the messages came correctly.
Well, we have talked to a number of organizations, ones that are diverse, ones that don't do that, volunteers has been the most sensitive, trained group of volunteers because everyone went through it in the 70s and 80s. But they missed the point. That was an excuse for why we weren't doing it. So what we're doing now is saying, if we are refocusing on it. We are saying that, I don't remember whose comment was, that if someone has an issue with a potential female mentor or a young mentor, and how does that detract from your serving the mission, or how does that detract from us serving the client? If the answer is anything other than another, then that person may in fact be there for long. And this doesn't apply to just white men but was in Philadelphia, and they have a different diversity. They're almost all African. Because they said we need more white people, but they look like city center Philadelphia and African American. They actually look like their community. So I think it really does. We need to continue to we need to tie inclusion to the fact that it is mission oriented. And I think to RG's point, diversity, we report out a lot of diversity statistics because that's what a lot of people ask for. But diversity happens because of it. And we'll have a day sooner rather than later where men and women are leaving the organization at the same rate versus 50% more women leaving the organization. So we have enough data to suggest there are issues, but we're looking at the culture within the organization.
Michael, and I'm going to wrap it up.
I will speak as quickly as I can. I just want to share a moment that I actually went through last month. We were asked to participate in a Black Business Expo. One of my members and she and I were the only two Caucasian people in the room. And we walked into the back room where they were giving out some awards, and one of their speakers was a self-styled comedian. We walked into the room to return a piece of equipment, and from the podium, the self-styled comedian said, "I got to shut up now. White people just walk." And I can so appreciate feeling excluded because they think I didn't belong. And that's the same. I call it an aha moment because it let me have a little bit of a glimpse into how people who don't look like me, for whatever reason, have to feel.
So, you know, if you have issues in your child, you know how, and if you don't know, take the time to find out, okay? Because if we are unhappy, if we don't feel appreciated, how in the heck are we going to be able to serve our clients the way the mission asks us to serve our clients? So my challenge to you is to be, you know your chapters. I'm not going to try to stand up here and tell you what to do. But what I would like for you to do is to go back, interact with your chapter, and if there's an issue that you think that needs to be addressed, take the time to do it. It will be uncomfortable, absolutely. But I tell you, in the long run, it will be worthwhile. Ensure that our volunteers, all of our volunteers, understand that they're appreciated. And we demonstrate that. You're the only one that can do it. I can't do it from my level. Your DD can't do it from his level, his or her level. It has to happen at the chapter level. And if you need assistance, you have resources to help you to have this conversation, to address whatever particular issues may come up in your chapter. Now, I understand that this discussion is a little uncomfortable, but how do we move forward? If we don't address it, we can't take the next step. So this is the first step that we're going to take in order to address that particular elephant in the room that no one really wants to talk about. But I do have one last question. I'm sorry I lied. And that question is, should we have this type of meeting again? Because that's the question the RVPs are trying to decide. Should we have a regional meeting once a year? You think it's worthwhile?
You will be getting a survey in a little while too on this meeting.
Okay, and then the next question is, we got her a invitation to go to Savannah next year. Savannah, Georgia. Savannah sounds good? Well, we'll see if we can get some good flights into Savannah, and also we can get some great hotel rooms, because my budget this year was cut about $3,000 or $4,000 each.
I don't know what you do with your money.
Okay, someone else said springtime. So is there a particular time of the year that we're throw out the time? Not doing spring break. Okay. So we'll try this time to send out some suggestions and get your feedback. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much. Outside is the lunch, and if your DDs are going to have a breakout session, they'll let you know. Thank you so much. Sorry, we ran.